Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Level Up IAS. Today we are starting our GS Foundation program, the June batch. Nikhil sir will be taking your first class on modern India. But before that, for 15-20 minutes, I'll just go through the entire program. I'll introduce you to every aspect of it and what you should expect out. What are the things we'll be doing, what are the things we'll not be doing. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है that we'll not be doing, but still there are many questions that we get on YouTube. Who are the teachers? I'll introduce all the teachers. So today there are questions that we get कि कितने टेस्ट होंगे, क्या होगा, कैसे होगा. I'll answer all those in this in the first 10 minutes before Nikhil sir starts taking the overview of modern India for UP. Okay, so let me first go through the first point. क्या है ये? Slide either. How do I? It's hanged. छोड़ दो. Let me take you to the details of the program. First part is, देखो, this is unlike any other GS Foundation program. Everything that you need for your preparation except your optional classes. Optional तो हर बच्चे का अलग अलग होगा, right? You may be taking optional at Level Up IAS, you may not be taking optional at Level Up IAS, but other than your optional classes, you do not have to do anything. You do not have to join any course either at Level Up IAS or at any other institution. आपका पूरा प्रिपरेशन अभी से टिल योर इंटरव्यू इज आवर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी. एवरीथिंग, प्रीलिम्स टेस्ट, मेंस टेस्ट, ऑब्जेक्टिव प्रैक्टिस, सब्जेक्टिव प्रैक्टिस, मेंटरशिप, एवरीथिंग इज आवर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी. योर सीसैट, योर एसए, एवरीथिंग इज आवर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी. तो ये पूछिएगा भी मत कि सर इज एसए कवर्ड, इज सीसैट कवर्ड, विल देयर बी अ सेपरेट मॉड्यूल फॉर सीसैट, विल वी हैव टू जॉइन प्रीलिम्स टेस्ट सीरीज सेपरेटली? नो, योर एंटायर प्रिपरेशन is our responsibility. You do not have to worry about joining any other course, anything either at Level Up IAS or anywhere else. जो आप प्रिपरेशन के बारे में सोच के आए हैं उसमें just add optional to this GS Foundation program and your entire preparation would be taken care of. Now we will start with 2 subjects at a time. We will not be doing this ki first day history, then geography, then polity, then economy, then science, then environment. So we will be starting with 2 subjects at a time. We'll be starting with history and geography, and this will go on for next 10 weeks. What we want is, in 10 weeks, in 30 classes of history and 30 classes of geography, your history and geography should be done, your modern India and geography should be done, so that you should feel confident. After 10 weeks, you should be able to evaluate yourself. Am I really done with 20% of the syllabus? Can I solve 20 questions which were asked in this preliminary examination? अभी मेंस का एग्जाम आ जाएगा, उस दिन you should be able to see, okay, these are modern India question. Am I in a position to solve them? Rather than हर सब्जेक्ट फरवरी तक चलता रहेगा and not feeling confident in anything. So we'll be going with 6 GS classes every week, 3 classes for each subject. We'll be starting with history and geography. In 10 weeks this would be over. Then we'll start with the rest of the topic. Now, one thing that I want to make clear on the very first day: any institution which is starting GS in June, they are not able to complete it by February. So what they end up doing is, in March and April they start taking a lot of extra classes, 2 classes every day, 3 classes every day, and this becomes a huge problem. Those students are not prepared for prelims because वो March, April, May में इतनी सारी नई classes कर रहे होते हैं, परेशान रहते हैं. We want to ensure that your classes get over in February, and therefore your extra classes would start in October. From October, you will have 9 classes every week rather than just 6 classes every week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you will have 3 more extra classes, जहाँ पे we may start some subjects parallelly, ensuring that by February 28, your syllabus is properly done for GS. Your course would not be, your GS would be complete, your current affairs classes would continue even after that. Current affairs classes would go on till your mains examination, even till your interview examination. But your GS, we want to finish it on 28th Feb. इस बार 27th ही होगा 2025 में. राइट, बाई 27th Feb. लास्ट ईयर वी हैड प्रॉमिस कि विल फिनिश इट बाई 28th Feb. हमारा 11th March तक गया था. 11 days का तो आप थोड़ा सा कंसेशन दे सकते हैं, बट दिस ईयर विल ट्राई टू इंश्योर दैट इट गेट्स ओवर ऑन 27th Feb, so that you have complete 3 months for revision. You are not running behind classes कि ये भी कर ले, ये भी कर ले, ये भी कर ले. उन बच्चों का फर्स्ट अटेम्प्ट में प्री नहीं होता. We want you people to get selected in the very first. Then Saturday, Sunday you will have current affairs classes. So abhi on 29th of June, after your GS class at 5 PM in the evening, you will have current affairs classes starting 29th June. That would happen. And then you would also be writing lots of tests every week starting from 7th of June. Not the very first week. अभी Saturday, Sunday आपकी current affairs classes हो जाएंगी. तो every week you will be writing 2 tests. One objective, other subjective. Starting 7th of July, आपके हर week 2 tests होंगे. In the afternoon, one will be objective test, another will be subjective test. Those subjective tests would be evaluated within 2-3 days, would be given to you, but then your mentor will again sit with you, with your paper, to understand what is wrong with you, what is good with you, what should be improved, what are the areas in which you are excellent. Now, dekho, one thing that we believe in is that the most important aspect of GS Foundation preparation is revision. ये इतना बड़ा कोर्स होता है ना, if you don't revise, then you end up forgetting everything. आपको examination hall में you will feel like out of 100 questions, 80 questions I had heard of, but I did not know more than 35 questions. I could not attempt more than 35 questions because something that you did in June, you forgot it by March, you were not able to revise and you were not able to attempt it. We don't want this to happen. So all of you should be doing what? एक revision का ना एक strategy रखो. देखो, if you are spending 2.5 hours in class, ensure that you are spending 2.5 hours at home also on the same subject. घर जाओ, notes को उसी दिन revise करो. Initially, what you may have is you may have 2.5 hours of class of GS, 2.5 hours class of optional. आपको घर जाके उस पे उतना ही काम करना है. Do not run behind something else. I'll buy this book, I'll do this, whatever teacher has recommended you. See, please understand, Level Up IAS has a different philosophy. We believe that if a student has joined here, we should be able to ensure that each and every aspect of the syllabus is covered. तो बाकी जगह बच्चे बहुत सारी और किताबें लेके पढ़ रहे होंगे, आपको वो शुरू नहीं करना है. We will tell you what has to be studied. You finish that, you cover that. We will ensure that your entire syllabus is properly done, is properly covered. Okay, so coming back to the revision wala part, what you have to do is, अब घर जाइए उसे पढ़िए. Let's say you sleep at 12 every day. Have a time when you sleep. Sometimes we become indisciplined. What we end up doing is we end up like आज मैं 2 बजे तक पढ़ लेता हूँ. Today let me study till 3 AM and then entire schedule gets hampered. In our college, all of us may have done it. हम 3 बजे तक पढ़ रहे हैं, 4 बजे तक पढ़ रहे हैं. But then you do not realize that next day is wasted. Don't do that. Have a fixed time, 12. Or whatever, you may be sleeping at 10 PM, you may be sleeping at 11 PM, you may be sleeping at 2 AM. Sleeping at 2 AM is not a good idea. Try to sleep early, but let's say you sleep at 12. At 11, stop your study. जो भी आपने नई चीज पढ़नी थी पढ़ ली. 11 to 11:15, go brush your teeth, freshen up, get ready for bed. But in the last 45 minutes of the day, what you should be doing is you should be revising again everything that you have done in that day. If you don't do that, then आपने जो पढ़ा है ना वो आप 2-3 दिन में 4 दिन में भूल जाओगे. Just flip through it. Then every Sunday you'll have 2 tests. Saturday को take out 3-4 hours for revising everything that you have done in that week. Right? Then you'll have a monthly test. So what we have is we have weekly tests every Sunday. Then you'll have monthly test. Monthly test में you'll have the syllabus of the entire month would be covered. तो देखो आपने हर रोज घर पे जाके रिवीजन किया. वीकली टेस्ट में you went through the second revision. Monthly test में you'll go through the third revision. But then now you'll have a question कि सर monthly test इतना सारा रिवाइज एक दिन में हो पाएगा? Your first off will be Saturday before your monthly. संडे को आपका टेस्ट होगा, मंथली टेस्ट, आपका सैटरडे ऑफ रहेगा. So that you have the entire day, not only 3 hours. 4 week हो गए हैं, 3 hours. You'll need 12 hours for revising everything. Right? Then you'll also have a quarterly test. of both prelims and mains, and you will have a 6 monthly test of both prelims and mains. इतने रिविजन जो करेगा बच्चा बस क्लास में जो पढ़ रहा है, वॉट एवर यू स्टडिंग इन क्लास, इफ यू आर एबल टू रिवाइज these things these many times, in January, February only you will be like, I'm prepared. And if you will not do that, see, most of the students end up not writing tests. Like, I need to study some more, then I'll start writing tests. Don't wait for that. Start attempting tests, start attempting your objective test, start attempting your subjective test. Because if you will have this mindset that it is compulsory, I have to do it, then you will not waste your Saturday. On Saturday, exam से पहले वाला Saturday सबसे effective पढ़ाई वाला होगा. उसके if you will decide कि I do not have to write a test on Sunday, let me relax a bit. आज थोड़ा सो जाते हैं, आज मूवी देख लेते हैं, आज थोड़ा घूमने चले जाते हैं. You will end up wasting it. आपको अपने आप को ब्रेक देना है, बट संडे को देना है. आफ्टर योर क्लासेस आर डन, गिव योरसेल्फ हाफ अ डे कि आज एंजॉय करेंगे, रिलैक्स करेंगे. आफ्टर योर टेस्ट, नॉट बिफोर योर टेस्ट. प्रायोरिटाइज योर टेस्ट, फोकस ऑन दैट. Okay, that's very crucial, that's very important. So this is what we are telling you here, कि we have extensive practice, regular assessment and evaluation. You will be able to regularly assess yourself, where do you stand among your peer group, how you are performing. You will have both objective, subjective test. It will go on till February. After February, you will only have objective test till your preliminary examination. Till February, you will have both objective test and subjective test. In March, April and May, you will only have objective test, prelims ka test, and after that, for those of you who clear preliminary examination, you will get access to mains test series. इस साल clear नहीं करोगे, next year clear करोगे, तो next year you will get access to our mains test series. You have access to mains test series, but only once. Okay, so do it, use it when you clear preliminary examination. अच्छे से पढ़ाई करो, first year में clear it, and you get access to this. Other than this, at the time of mains, we also write lots of answers. So what we do is, we run something called mains masters. You do not need mains masters program because you would already be very well prepared. But आपको लगता है कि revision करना, mains के लिए revision कर लें फटाफट. So we run what is known as mains masters program. In that program, we make you write 4 answers in every class. In 70 days, you will write 280 answers for GS. That is in the 3 months of mains preparation. So that will also be available for you. You will not need it if you study properly. Please understand. जैसे हमारा prelims masters program आता है, you will not need it. It is for students जो कहीं और पढ़ रहे थे, अच्छी पढ़ाई नहीं हुई, they come to know about us very late, and then they come to study with us. देखो, हमारा institution is very popular for mains program. Why is it very popular for mains program? मैं आपको बताता हूँ. आप ORN जब आते हो ना, you do not know about level up IAS, because हमारा वो full page बड़े बड़े ads नहीं आते हैं. You spend 1 year, 2 year here, and you realize कि level up IAS is a good institution because of the word of mouth. I am pretty sure almost all of you have come here because of word of mouth. Some friend has told you. You have not come here because कोई बड़ा advertisement देखा था. तो हम मेंस के लिए बहुत पॉपुलर इसलिए कि by the time you spend 1 or 2 years here, you get to know कि level up IAS is an excellent place, and मेंस में lots of students come to us. हमारे prelims crash course में बहुत सारे बच्चे आते हैं. क्यों आते हैं? Because by the time you get to know about level up. आप यहाँ पढ़ रहे होगे, आप अपने नोट्स दिखाओगे दोस्तों को, आपके दोस्त बोलेंगे यार हमने तो ये सब नहीं पढ़ा. I promise you one thing. In February 2025, when your course would get over, आपके फ्लैट में जितने बच्चे रह रहे हैं, they'll be studying from you. I promise you this today. आपके फ्लैट में जो बच्चे रह रहे होंगे, they will ask for your notes. That's my promise. They will say, यार अपने साइंस वाले नोट्स देना, अपने इकोनॉमी वाले नोट्स देना, and you will not need them. I promise you. You'll like, अरे ये क्या है? In every class, you will get printed notes before your class. They say today, sir will be starting history. You have got printed notes there. Okay, that is our promise. Other thing, a few more thing I'll tell you ki why Level Up IAS is an institution on which you can trust with your like wholeheartedly trust. We are an institution, perhaps the only institution in old Rajendra Nagar, who do not publish results of interviews. आप जैसे आप जो फ्रंट पेज पे एड्स देखते हो ना बड़े बड़े, उसमें देखना कितनों के नीचे लिखा हुआ है इंटरव्यू गाइड. वो बच्चा उस इंस्टीट्यूशन में सिर्फ हाफ एन आवर के लिए गया है और उन्होंने जीएस फाउंडेशन के टाइम बोल दिया कि देखो ये हमारा स्टूडेंट. वी आर द ओनली इंस्टीट्यूशन नॉट डू दैट. 100+ स्टूडेंट्स सिलेक्शन दैट यू सी, ऑल ऑफ देम वर आइदर पार्ट ऑफ आवर फाउंडेशन प्रोग्राम्स और आवर मेंस प्रोग्राम. बाय द टाइम ऑफ मेंस एवरीवन गेट्स टू नो लेवल अप जाना है So all of them were either part of our foundation program or mains programs. None of them were part of our free test series. हम prelim से पहले ना समीक्षा टेस्ट रन करते हैं, उसमें thousands of students participate. We will not publish their names. आप अगेन फ्रंट फुल पेजेस जो ऐड देख रहे हो ना, वहां देखना कितने फ्री टेस्ट सीरीज वाले बच्चे, कितने इंटरव्यू गाइडेंस प्रोग्राम वाले बच्चे. We do not do that. We remain honest at the beginning when you are joining us. I promise you, जब आप ज्वाइन कर रहे हो तब हम आपको झूठ बोल के नहीं ला रहे हैं, तो हम आपकी पूरी तैयारी में कभी आपसे झूठ नहीं बोलेंगे, पूरी ईमानदारी से, पूरी मेहनत से आपको पढ़ाएंगे और सबसे अच्छा. Right? Let me take you ahead with other aspects. I have already spoken about this. Your syllabus would be completed by February. Please understand your current affairs classes will be going on even in March and April. Then your learning mode will be flexible. You will have both offline and online access. So sometimes if you miss online classes, you can join. Sometimes you miss offline classes, you will be able to do online classes, and you'll also get regular mentorship. Mentorship में जैसे in June batch also 20 of the students I'll be mentoring. जैसे हर batch में 20 students are being mentored by me. 20 students are given to each teacher, and after that we also have a set of mentors who will be taking out this mentoring aspect. Now this is the list of teachers who will be teaching you. This is the last slide that I'll go through. I'll introduce all the teachers, क्योंकि अभी YouTube पे कोई पूछ रहा था कि आपके यहाँ कौन टीचर है, कितना एक्सपीरियंस है, कौन पढ़ाएगा, कैसे पढ़ाएगा. तो आई थॉट कि इन वन ऑफ द इंट्रोडक्टरी सेशन आई विल ब्रीफली टॉक अबाउट ऑल द टीचर्स. देखो आपकी क्लास इज बीइंग स्टार्टेड बाय निखिल सर. निखिल सेठ सर इज द बेस्ट हिस्ट्री टीचर इन द कंट्री. आपने जिससे भी फीडबैक लिया होगा अबाउट लेवल अप आईएएस, वन थिंग दे वुड हैव सेड, दे हैव नेवर स्टडीड हिस्ट्री द वे निखिल सर हैज. ऐसा फीडबैक कितने लोगों को मिला है? आपको मिला है, आप लोगों को मिला है. You have understood this and you'll realize it. Spend 30 days with him and you'll realize that history which is considered to be boring by someone. Some people find यार ये बहुत factual है, dates याद करनी है. History वैसी है ही नहीं. History is so interesting when you'll get to know a story behind every event. That event will not be a fact for you. That event will be a part of your life because you know every aspect of it. Right? So Nikhil sir will be teaching history. Nikhil sir officially, unofficially has been teaching for last 10 years. वो 2013-14 से पढ़ा रहे हैं. Full time उन्होंने 2019 से पढ़ाना शुरू किया है. But from 2013-14 only in Pune he was teaching history, and since so he has a lot of experience there. Gautam sir and Dimple ma'am, both of them will be taking your geography. Now Dimple ma'am के videos are already there on our YouTube channel. Both of them have given multiple interviews. Both of them have been teaching for 6 years now and have very good experience. Babu sir will be taking your polity and governance classes, and जो ethics में governance वाला section होता है ना, that will also be taken by Babu sir. Babu sir is someone who has cleared UPSC exam 4 times and UPSC civil services exam 3 times. UPSC exam में एक बार उन्होंने UPSC CAPF में All India rank 44 he got in 2010. Then in 2013, 16 and 17. He cleared UPSC civil services examination. If he had joined the service, he would have been an IAS officer, right? Since last 8 years, he has been consistently teaching. He is someone who's a no-nonsense person. जैसे आप मेरी क्लास में आओगे, बहुत सारे जोक्स भी मिलेंगे आप हंसते खेलते रहोगे. सर सीरियसली पढ़ाएंगे. You may not find a lot of YouTube videos about him, but when you will study from him, you will realize that the conceptual clarity in polity, public administration, governance in ethics that he'll be able to give you will be just immense. In fact, आपके साथ ना कुछ April batch वाले बच्चे होंगे. Just ask them how many prelims question were they able to do this year. They'll be very confident in most of the prelims questions of polity because Babu sir have already covered polity in the April batch. For June batch also, he'll be coming very soon to take your polity and governance classes. Then Vishwa sir will be, हमने डिम्पल मैम की बात कर ली है. निखिल सर एंड विशाल सर both will be taking your history classes. डिम्पल मैम की बात कर ली. विश्वजीत सर will be taking your ethics classes. He is also the teacher of philosophy optional with us. He is someone who cleared this UPSC civil services examination in 2013. 2013 में he was one of the toppers of philosophy. He was one of the toppers of interview also. He got 216 in the interview. He also leads our interview program. And ethics में जो philosophical वाला part ethics का है. Ethics में there are 2 sections. One is value, moral. That's the philosophical part. And other is ethics and governance. Ethics and governance is being taken by Babu sir. Philosophical part will be taken by Vishwa sir. He is also a former civil servant. He has not retired. He has quit his job. He is full-time teaching में, and he will be taking that aspect. Then Nishat sir and Karan sir. आप सबको दिख रहे हैं निशात सर, करण सर? निशात सर, करण सर, चंदन सर. निशात सर एंड करण सर. निशात सर इज आवर सोशियोलॉजी फैकल्टी. आप में से सोशियोलॉजी ऑप्शनल में कोई एनरोल है? हाँ, सम ऑफ यू आर एनरोल. तो आप लोगों ने ऑलरेडी निशात सर से पढ़ा होगा. निशात सर इज वन ऑफ द बेस्ट सोशियोलॉजी टीचर, जो एकदम डिफिकल्ट कॉन्सेप्ट भी ना सिंपल तरीके से पढ़ा पाए. ही विल बी टेकिंग सम ऑफ योर सोसाइटी क्लासेस. सेम इज विद करण सर. डू आई नीड टू इंट्रोड्यूस करण सर टू एनीवन? अगर आपको एंथ्रो पढ़ना है किसी भी तरीके से, आप इंडिया के किसी भी पार्ट में हैं, आपने लेवल अप का नाम सुना है या नहीं सुना है? आपने ये सुना होगा कि एंथ्रोपोलॉजी करणदीप सर. Karandeep sir teaches highest number of students in anthropology in the country. He will be also taking some of your essay classes and some society classes. Chandan sir is our PSIR teacher. He is one teacher who sits with students. एक एक आंसर खुद evaluate करते. तो PSIR optional तो पढ़ा रहे हैं, but IR वाला section in GS2 will be taken by Karandeep sir. Okay, this is the team of teachers. हमने जो teachers last year introduce किए थे, we did not change them. For the entire year, we had same set of teachers, and we promise you, this is the team that we will have. This is the team which will not get affected. अच्छा, ये मैं हूँ, इतनी देर से आप सुन ही रहे हो, है ना? I'll be taking care of your GS3 and your current affairs. तो आप Saturday Sunday मुझसे पढ़ना शुरू कर दोगे. You will get an idea. All of you will have my number. आज का ये वीडियो YouTube पे जा रहा है, तो I'm not giving you my number, क्योंकि YouTube फिर सबको मिल जाएगा. But all of you will have my number. आपको कोई भी प्रॉब्लम होता है, आपने ऑफिस में रिक्वेस्ट किया, 24 आवर्स में वो इशू रिजॉल्व नहीं हुआ, वो मेरे को भेज दो. The teachers, the staff, everyone knows that all the students have my number. तो कभी भी ऐसा होता ही नहीं कि आपको जरूरत पड़े मुझे मैसेज करने का, पर कोई भी चैलेंज आएगा. आई एम दी co-founder of the institution, I'm the director of the institution, and all of you would have my number for this. आप डाउट्स तो पूछ ही सकते हैं, वो हो सकता है, but for any other issue also you can message me, any other academic institution related issue. आपके जीवन में ब्रेकअप हो गया है, सोनाली मैम, we have a psychologist who will help you out in those kind of situation. I'm not an expert there. वहाँ पे मैं आपकी बहुत हेल्प नहीं कर पाऊंगा. उसके लिए भी सोनाली मैम है जो आपकी हेल्प करेंगी वहाँ पे. उन चीज़ों के लिए नहीं, आपको लेवल अप से एसोसिएटेड एकेडमिकली समझने में कोई भी प्रॉब्लम हो रही है तो आई विल लाइक ऑन सैटरडे आई विल प्रोवाइड इन द वेरी फर्स्ट क्लास ऑफ करंट अफेयर्स आई विल प्रोवाइड यू माई नंबर. ओके, सो दिस इज ऑल अबाउट दिस प्रोग्राम. कुछ बेसिक डिटेल्स. इट्स स्टार्टिंग टुडे. Classes would be from 2 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. ये लिंक है, this link is on YouTube, is also available in the description. You can go to the description and take admission. एक और चीज़ है, for people who are watching it online, please note that we have changed our building. Earlier we were in the interiors of ORN. Now we have moved on the main road. So we are on the second floor, building number 45 on Pusa Road, in front of pillar 128 of Metro pillar 128. तो जो लोग offline आना चाहते हैं, for any other query they can come here, or these are the numbers and email ID where you can write a mail or give a call to get any details about the GS Foundation program. अब मैं एक बार online doubts ले लेता हूँ, then I'll invite Nikhil sir to take on the responsibility of teaching you today in the Modern India class. Varun Jeena is saying, Nikhil sir is saying, Nikhil sir नहीं, Rahul Singh is saying Nikhil sir का fan here. अच्छा, he joined yesterday GS Foundation program yesterday after talking to Nikhil sir. Ankit Saxena is saying, even I read by Vishal sir history lecture, fabulous teacher, level up, you are giving one of out of best industry. हाँ ठीक है, सवाल पूछो, हमें पता है हम अच्छे हैं. मतलब I need questions. अरे I am your GS3 में आपका साइंस इकोनॉमी मेरी जिम्मेदारी है. संतोष कुमार, I'll be taking your economy classes and science class. Teachers not use Hindi to explain the subject in class. Yes, देखो, see, please understand, we will primarily be speaking in English. But my mother tongue is Hindi. मेरी मम्मी ने मुझे पीटा हिंदी में गाली दे के. हाँ, my mother tongue is Hindi. Nikhil sir's mother tongue is Marathi. So that is an issue. So sometimes while explaining something, we may divert into that language. At that time, offline students, it's your responsibility to let the teacher know, please explain this again in English. We are all very comfortable in English. We can all very fluently speak English. That's not an issue. And sometimes 10% of the time this may happen that we may divert towards Hindi. At that time, you can always remind us back, or in the online comments in the live classes, if you're watching live classes, remind us. We will ensure that we'll be speaking in English only in the entire class. सर आज LMS पोर्टल पे शो नहीं, हाँ आज क्लास YouTube पे है ना, इसलिए LMS पे नहीं है. Online mode में lecture, so in online mode 1 you can watch live lecture. After that, if a video is of 2 hours, you can watch it for 4 hours 15 minutes. Now same 15 minutes का section you can keep watching for 4 hours 15 minutes repeatedly, or the entire video. So if a video is of 2 hours, you will be able to watch it 2 times plus 15 minutes. If a video is of 3 hours, you will be able to watch it for 6 hours plus 15 minutes, like this. Okay, so live plus 2 times watch. So you can in total watch 3 times online videos. Are there any modular course? No, modular course GS Foundation ke we do not have modular courses. Modular courses are launched in November, December, not right now. Okay, any doubts that you people have before I invite Nikhil sir? बताइए. नहीं? हाँ. Mains Masters program, which is for students who are writing mains this year. You want access to that? पागल हो. पढ़ना शुरू करो. अच्छा, do this for me. For continuously 2 tests, top in the examination, GS वाले, I'll get you MMP access. That will show कि whatever is happening in GS, she's doing perfectly well there. I'll get you MMP access. It's not part of GS Foundation program. Like आपका MMP 2025 वाला है, right? Not the MMP which is Mains Masters program which is going on right now. But if you want, I'll give it to you. If you top in both the tests, I'll give you that access. Okay. Sir, is it possible to prepare for UPSC and RAS exam? Yes, देखो, a lot of our students have cleared RAS exam and they have done it while preparing for UPSC. देखो, UP PCS, RAS, Uttarakhand PCS, a lot of similarities there. UP PCS में there is some divergence. They have come up with 2 new subjects, so you have to focus on that. Otherwise, preparation is more or less similar. Okay. So, any other doubts, guys? Yes. We'll try to ensure that that doesn't happen. And in case that happens, you'll always have access of online, so you may be able to. We'll try to ensure that that doesn't happen. When is your optional class? At what time? अच्छा, sociology में आप 11:45 to. We'll try to keep it in the evening then, है ना? Evening 5 PM पे हम रखने की कोशिश करेंगे. But in case sometimes it happens, you'll always have online access to take care of that. Okay, so yes. मुझे ना आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही, थोड़ी बुलंद आवाज में बोलना पड़ेगा आपको. हाँ. Okay. Okay. Standard book would not help you. Here, proper understanding of both geography and society will help you. So, see, please understand, by February your syllabus would be over, right? You will understand geography also, you will understand society also, and then at the time of mains master program, at the time of revision, what we can do is we will have these kind of questions which are based on multiple subjects at one go, right? Those kind of things would be there, right? It will not be there in standard books. You will have to study it along on the basis of PYQs. You will have to study those. Okay, so sir, Nikhil sir, please आप आ जाइए, ये भार संभालिए इस क्लास का. सर मेरा कमेंट्स तो पढ़ लो. क्या है दीपल आपका कमेंट? नाराज हो रहा है दीपल, मेरा कमेंट मिस हो गया. दीपल दोबारा लिख दो यार, मैंने मिस कर दिया. आई एम सॉरी. हाँ सर, कैन वी ज्वाइन द प्रोग्राम बाय नेक्स्ट वीक? कभी भी ज्वाइन करो. यू विल हैव ऑनलाइन वीडियोस अवेलेबल. इफ यू ज्वाइन नेक्स्ट वीक, you will have to watch 6 classes online, है ना? So you'll have online videos available. You can join it anytime you want. इस कमेंट के लिए नाराज हो रहा था ये. Sir, what about students who are not able to grab the classes because of full explanation in English? We will have to make full explanation in English. We will not. देखो, our promise is that these classes are for English medium students. So please do not force us to use Hindi. English medium people can force us to use English because this class is supposed to be for English students, people who understand English. But If you have some doubts, you may ask it in Hindi and we'll try to explain that again in Hindi. But if you do not understand English, you should not be joining this program. If you are not comfortable with English, you should not be joining this program. This is not a program for Hindi medium students. Interview ki देखो, there's a question. Vaishali Gahalian is asking, will you be preparing us for interview? We will be preparing us for interview, but I'll tell you one more thing. The entire ORN, each and every institution will be running behind you. हमारे यहाँ से interview preparation कर, because that is how they'll get results. अभी जब results publish हो रहे हैं, मैं क्या बोल रहा हूँ? Look at how many interview guidance program students are they showing. So do not worry about your interview preparation. We will be preparing you for interviews, but for interview, everyone wants to prepare you for interview so that they can claim this is a student from our institution. Okay, so you will have interview preparation here, but please do not worry about interview. By interview, you become a big asset for everyone, and everyone wants to grab you. Abhi, a lot of students have come to me and they said ki, sir, people are so shameless. A day before my main interview, they kept on calling me, ek interview hamare institution. They kept on doing this. They have done it. And some students told me, sir, they do not understand anything. They somehow have got my number. In the morning, I have given some interview somewhere. I told them I have already given an interview, and in the morning I have my main UPSC interview. But they still kept on calling me कि बस 15 मिनट का interview, हम आपका बहुत अच्छे panel से करवाएंगे, आपको बहुत benefit मिलेगा. ये why were they doing it? They were doing it so that if she gets selected, she actually got selected, and she told me all those things after getting selected. She actually got selected, and उन्होंने उसके बाद बताया कि ये सब होता है. तो इंटरव्यू की प्रिपरेशन की चिंता आप मत करो, प्रीलिम्स मेंस की चिंता करो. इंटरव्यू की प्रिपरेशन करवाने के लिए पूरे इंडिया के सारे इंस्टीट्यूशन आपको कॉल करेंगे, हम कराएंगे लाइक दैट. ओके, चलिए निखिल सर आ जाइए. सर के नोट्स हैं यहाँ डिस्प्ले पे. सर ऑनलाइन स्टूडेंट्स के लिए लाइव डाउट सेशन. हाँ, एक लास्ट क्वेश्चन. ऑनलाइन स्टूडेंट्स विल हैव 2 डाउट सेशन. देखो, वन तो यू कैन हैव आस्क डाउट्स ऑनलाइन लाइव. आफ्टर दैट एवरी वीक यू विल हैव 2 डाउट सेशन, वन बाय ईच टीचर. एक वीक में आपकी 2 क्लासेस चल रही हैं, 2 टीचर्स की क्लासेस चल रही हैं. यू विल हैव 2 डाउट सेशन. अदर देन दैट यू कैन ऑल्सो गेट इन टच विद योर मेंटर्स एंड गेट योर डाउट्स. निखिल सर.
Morning. Just give me. Okay. Hello. Good afternoon. My name is Nikhil and I will be teaching Modern India. Half of you know me already. I had a couple of lectures in, but I wanted to have a very free-willing discussion to understand what is the age difference now. Year by year, I am teaching subject. I am difficult for history. पढ़ाना मुश्किल होते जा रहा है. And I want to understand why is that happening, and I want you to understand why is that happening, so that it will become easy for you to travel the remaining. So let me ask you a couple of questions. How many of you that history is a very boring subject? Take them honestly. honestly. It's of facts, rectification, and dates. So half of you, it's a very good number. 50% people don't find history boring. ये तो unprecedented हो गया. You know, there is another problem with history, apart from its appearing as if it is boring, and that is that it's a dangerous subject. Dangerous in a way that it defines your identity, individual identity, and also social community identity. And then it makes you, compels you to have lots of, आपका जो world view होता है, that world view is shaped by history. When you look at somebody, look at some country, some community, some individual, some city, state, you have to carry that burden. So one thing, the first point that I just said, is facts, it's just a burden of memory. But the second point, it shapes identity and worldview and compels you to do many things. It's actually burden of history altogether. All of us are carrying that burden, consciously or unconsciously. Why do you think there is much prabha for last 3 days about rewriting NCERTs? And this is just sanitization or sanitation rather of the ongoing NCERTs for last almost 20. There is actually a mandate given to NCERT to bring out new. As far as my understanding goes, on Monday or Tuesday, the new book would be ready and given to the government to decide what to do. And it will be the 6th standard NCERT for social. So March se publish hona tha, ho nahi raha. Schools are starting now. The book is not out yet. Maybe in 1 week you will see that debate coming up, that it is not only sanitizing the old NCERTs, it's about a new production of altogether book, and yes, it's all political hot potato. So history is not only sometimes boring, but it is also very charged politics. So I will try to unravel that today for next remaining part of the session, and that kind of fundamental understanding will provide you some lens. That lens will be very useful to prepare for our entire next 35 to 38 lectures. 35 ऑफिशियली बोला है, 2-3 मैं लेके चलता हूँ एक्स्ट्रा, ठीक है. तो दैट इज माय फर्स्ट पॉइंट. सो वी हैव, इज वॉइस नॉट क्लियर? सर बहुत सारे कमेंट्स आ रहे हैं. इज इट क्लियर नाउ? Spotify लग गया. So let me quickly walk you through at least basics. We know that in our syllabus for the UPSC CAC exam, we have ancient India, we have medieval India, we have art and culture, modern India, post-independence, and world history. We have so many segments of history in our syllabus, but not all the segments are equally important for every stage. That clarity you should have. For example, ancient medieval is primarily important for only prelims. So the political history, administrative history, social history, economic history, they constitute a bulk of the syllabus for prelims, not for mains. When you think of art and culture and modern India, art and culture of ancient till modern, if you go by syllabus, you have religious history, philosophical history, cultural history, literature, arts, architecture, everything, and modern India that I shall be doing in some days. That is actually common to both prelims and mains. Plus mains. And when we talk of post-independence and world history, barring for 1 or 2 rare questions which appear very rarely, एक दो सवाल कभी कभी आते हैं, you have post-independence purely in main examination, and so is world history. Largely, when we study modern India for next so many weeks, our focus will be from both preliminary perspective and main perspective. में दोनों करना है, साथ साथ लेके चलेंगे. We will not be divorcing them completely from each other. It is not even possible. Now, in the prelim examination, we get around 15 to 18 questions out of 100 collectively from entire history, but last 2 years have been exceptions. Last 2 years they are asking 12, 13 questions each, not 15, 16, 17. So 3 questions घट गए, but that keeps changing for every subject every year. You never know what is happening. So you should be prepared. In the main examination, we have history as a part of general studies 1 GS1. There you get 6 to 7 questions out of 20 every year. 6 minimum, 2-3 बार वो 8 तक गए थे, but generally 6 to 7. So this is the relative importance of history in your syllabus. However, history will also provide you a lot of foundation to understand all the other subjects. आपकी world history will become foundation for international relationships. You have modern India and world history will become the foundation to understand constitution, polity, governance, and world history for multiple things, and ancient medieval to hai. So history is important in itself and also creates a foundation to understand lots of other subjects. ये हो गई बहुत basic बात. We have to tick mark जब बात कर दे एक करके. Let me show you the syllabus, because students have a habit not to look at syllabus, and students have a habit not to look at previous year questions also for some reason. चिल्ला चिल्ला के बोलते नहीं. So we will show them in the class. So in case of prelims, for history, UPSC has mentioned only this single thing: history of India and Indian national movement. That is all. History of India में सब कुछ आ जाता है. Everything that happened till yesterday is history of India, in a way, technically speaking. So UPSC doesn't give a good amount of guidance about what should emphasize upon. For that, we have to look at the previous year questions, their patterns, their analysis, etc. And they have separately mentioned Indian national movement, although it is automatically part of history of India, but they want you to focus on that freedom movement. This is for prelims. If you go to mains, in main examination, you have 5 points about history collectively, which I have reproduced here. Of them, the 2 points pertain to modern Indian history, only modern India. बाकी पहला वाला जो है Indian culture, salient aspects of art forms, literature and architecture from ancient to modern times. That is why I said art and culture is part of both pre and mains. Then you have 2 bits for modern India. The second bit says modern Indian history from about middle of the 18th century, means around 1750s. So they are not able to or not willing to pinpoint exactly at which point modern history starts, because they cannot, nobody can. So perhaps it's Plassey, Battle of Plassey, perhaps it's third battle of Panipat, perhaps it's Buxar, perhaps it is death of Aurangzeb. They want to be fluid, let us be fluid. So sometime in the mid of 18th century. From there until the present, events, personalities and issues, again it is quite vague. And within that, again they have done the same thing जो यहाँ पे किया था. They have specifically talked about the freedom struggle, its various stages, important contributors and contributions from different parts of the country. They want you to go into the evolutionary aspect and regional aspect. And if you look at the questions, every year at least one question comes from that perspective, apart from typical questions. And then बाकी 2 bits जो है, एक post independence का है, एक world history का, that we shall cover separately. Right now only focus on modern India. So is the syllabus clear? It is not clear, because this is not detailed enough for us to understand. So we have to reconstruct lots of things. We have to try to decode UPSC's mind by relying a lot on the trend of PYQs. कि भाई ये कहाँ कहाँ focus कर रहे हैं, कहाँ कहाँ जा रहे हैं, because this guidance is not adequate for us. Now what we shall be doing is, for some amount of time, understand what is modern Indian history. It is going to be, as I said, a very general, free-wheeling discussion to some extent. Okay. Let me start from the very basics. How many of you here have the habit of reading history before you started preparing or wanted to start preparing? इतिहास की किताबें कौन पढ़ता था? Apart from school books, textbook की बात नहीं कर. Not a single person who has habit and liking of history as a दुनिया में आ गए. It makes my task easy and difficult both at the same time. Easy because I can tell anything, you will say yes, and difficult because I have to say everything. Anyway, so let us start with history itself then. Basic, what is the meaning of the term history? Let me ask you one question. You try to, anybody can define history. 2 minutes. 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 2 गुड पॉइंट, ये मैं इसी मुद्दे के लिए पहले आ गया. इट्स वेरी गुड, थैंक यू. मैं सोच के जो बैठा था उस पैटर्न में फिट हो गया आपका मुद्दा एकदम. पास्ट. Is past a history? Lots of things happen every day. In the past, yesterday, I wore different clothes. Is that part of a history? Today morning, I had some nashta. What was the food? Is that a part of a history? Well, it may be part of food history, but not relevant to us. Overall, when you say in the larger sense, what is the history about? Anybody from northeast of India? Have you ever visited northeast of India? 1, 2 people, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So there is, yes, आखिरी में 2-3 है. There is a very derogatory statement about Arunachal Pradesh that I came to know when I was there for some time in 2014, 2015. And the people there said, some outsiders who were in Arunachal for a long time, serving the people there, but they said there is a comment that Arunachal Pradesh has no history, it has only geography. Can you understand what do they mean by that? Arunachal has no history. Well, people have been inhabiting that part of earth for centuries. There are people, communities, tribes living there for centuries. They have their own change, they have their own politics, they have their own chiefs. Tribal warfares are rampant even आजकल तो बहुत कम हो गए, but until very recently they still carry that दाव, तलवार होती है, डर लगता है जाने में, right? So my point is that there have been political happenings, there have been battles and wars and change in territory, etc. over hundreds and thousands of years. Still, if somebody says it has no history, what does it mean? It has past and not history. अब बताओ. Significant events. Significant events. Significant for whom? Again, there is subjectivity. Maybe something is significant for chief, not for the common people. For one community, not for the another. Right? So your significance can become little bit a slippery slope for us. You are somewhat in the correct direction, but not completely. Yes. Historian तो आप भी बन सकते, मैं भी बन सकता हूँ, है ना? Migrant is not necessary. In that case, the region where nobody went, ऐसे नहीं होता है. देखो, history is primarily a study of change, not study of past. इसको आप दिमाग में डाल दो. Study of change and not study of past. When I say change, what do I mean? There has to be change in technology. There has to be change in economy. There has to be change in social structure, some political structure. वरना वही युद्ध चल रहे हैं साल लगातार. It's just a repetition. It's a cycle going on. If there is some kind of fundamental change in social, economic, political, technological structure, only then we are interested in studying that. So that part of the past, which helps us to underline change and continuity, that is history. Change and continuity. Study not of the past, but of change and continuity. क्या चेंज होता है, क्या चेंज नहीं होता है, and क्यों? Now, if we get obsessed over only past as a term, it appears as if the narrative, the dates, the events are extremely important. And that's why in school we hated history. Many, आप लोग, ठीक है? So mostly people hated history because they thought it's about events and dates. रटना पड़ता था. It is not that. It is actually about change. I'll tell you an example. Look at the books that were written in 1960s and 1940s and 1920s about history of modern India. The primary focus is on chapterization based on individual governor general. Benting आया, क्या हुआ? Dalhousie, Hastings, क्या हुआ? Warren, मतलब we take different chapters which are named by governor general and उनके policies, their effects, consequences, battles, wars, all those things. So that is a discarded version of history. We are no more interested, as if there is change in governor general, did it change history? We are interested in the larger structure, colonial structure, bureaucracy, economic exploitation. So these individuals don't matter much. There is exactly opposite saying in India's history. चाणक्य ने कहा है, राजा कालस्य कारणम. We say no more. No more. It's about the larger structure, colonial structure that we study. Individuals don't matter much. although they do matter. There is some agency, there is some action, but we have to focus for our understanding on larger process. So that is one thing I want to underline. History is not only study of past or past events or past dates. History is primary study of change and continuity in the past. That is one thing. Now, अब आते हैं second thing पे. What change to notice? क्या हो रहा है? क्या कहेंगे? What change? I'll tell you interesting story from my own past. I came to Warren in 2011. I went to a bookshop here. नाम भी लेता हूँ, सूद करके एक bookshop उस जमाने में चलता था. I went to him. I wanted to purchase a history book of modern India. I wanted a specific author. He went inside to search for the book. It took 2-3 minutes. He came out with a very old copy. Pages became yellow. बहुत सारी dust थी. क्या भैया नया copy दे दो. He just said, and it's a history book. नया क्या है इसमें? ले लो. What is new in history? History doesn't change. So why does the edition matter? He said, no, with every new edition, there is a change in the perspective. तो पॉइंट ये है कि चेंज आप नोटिस कैसे करोगे. नोटिस तब करोगे विच काइंड ऑफ चेंज. लॉट्स ऑफ थिंग्स चेंज. विच चेंज मैटर्स टू अस डिपेंड्स ऑन अस, not on the past. What I want to focus here is the question you ask will decide the answer you get from your past. But which question to ask is your and my concern right now, right here. So it's about present concerns and not past concerns. So history is about present. मैं आपको 2-3 कोड बताऊंगा बड़े अच्छे. I like them a lot. Point ये है कि if the edition of book was of 1970s, in 1970s maybe people were interested in different questions. The society was different, so they asked different questions, they got different answers. But today in 2020s we have different questions in our mind. इसीलिए every new edition, every new revision of history is important. It has to be done. If books are not rewritten, they get fossilized, they get outdated. History must be rewritten every time, but by following certain important academic criteria. वो अलग बात है. Because present is changing. We know there is a very famous saying in Cambridge lectures by a historian called E.H. Carr. You must have heard of him. E.H. Carr. E.H. Carr has said that history is a continuous dialogue between past and present. Is a dialogue between past and present. So either past और प्रेजेंट, उसमें से कोई भी एक चीज चेंज होती है, हिस्ट्री का किताब चेंज होता है. तो प्रेजेंट क्वेश्चंस डिटरमाइन व्हाट आर आवर कंसर्न्स. फॉर एग्जांपल 50 years ago nobody bothered asking about climate change, but today we think of climate change के policies मतलब impact of climate change in हड़प्पा. क्यों? डेटा पहले नहीं मिल सकता था, but the question was never raised because it is today's concern. Today we have a lot of interest in feminism. So when we criticize Raja Ram Mohan Roy, we focus not on his limitations but the negative things. The policies he brought for Satya abolition, the way debate happened actually constrained women's emancipation to some extent. Constrained, it's a negative point from feminist lens. So today we have interest in subaltern history, Dalit history. तो आज के कंसर्न चेंज हो गए तो क्वेश्चंस भी चेंज होंगे, तो जवाब भी चेंज होंगे. हिस्ट्री विल बी रीरिटन. हिस्ट्री इज अबाउट प्रेजेंट. देयर इज अ 11 volume सीरीज कॉल्ड हिस्ट्री ऑफ सिविलाइजेशन बाय विल एंड एरियल ड्यूरांट. मेरी बड़ी इच्छा है कि मेरे अलमारी में वो किताब बहुत महंगी होती है, खरीदी नहीं आज तक. आई हैव सॉफ्ट कॉपी ऑफ सम ऑफ देम, बट एनीवे द पॉइंट इज दैट in that Ariel Durant has given a very nice quote in a small reduced version of that called The Lessons of History. छोटी किताब है उसमें. He says that the present, past में relationship क्या है? The past is the present unrolled for understanding, and present is the past rolled up for action. Again, listen very carefully. Past is the present unrolled for understanding, and present is the past rolled up for action. So past and present are intertwined extremely. There is an Italian person called Vico. In Italian enlightenment, Vico, V-I-C-O. He gave a very succinct statement of that. He said, all history is contemporary. History never dies out. It lives within us, through us, every single day. That's why it becomes very political hot potato. Okay? All history is a contemporary history. आज के सवाल है, जो मर गए उनके सवाल नहीं है वो. So my second point was that it's about present. So the quotes of A.H. Carr, Ariel Durant and Vico, that was the single point. Change is to be noticed was the first point, and secondly, which change? The change in which we are interested today in present. Don't basic clear हो गए? Let us go to the third point. अब if you start asking the questions today to the past, maybe the question is the same, but answer may be different for you and me. Let us say there are multiple, because there is no single past, there is no single change. Change doesn't happen uniformly everywhere at the same time. Take example of Harappa. If I ask you what was this the situation of urbanization in India during Harappan era, what will you say? बड़े बड़े शहर थे. Is it true? It's true only for one corner of India, northwest, not entire India. Rather, on the majority geographical region of India, we have farming villages. We have people who are not even farming in. We have small towns. Urbanization is very important, salient aspect for northwest corner of India. If you come to Vedic era, we give entire chapter to Vedic India. But was there a Vedic India? It's only Western UP, Haryana. What about rest of India? The Vedas were composed in that part of India. So whatever history you can decode from Vedas belong to history of that region and those people. Maybe in the later centuries it became very important, so we have to go and study. I am not saying it is less important. I am saying whose history it is, which region, which part. Even today you have Banjara communities. Those who travel from city to city, place to place. This was the situation. All the Vedic Aryans, आज से 3000 साल पहले, 4000 साल पहले, 4000 साल पहले, right? But some people got settled, some did not. They are still stuck at the same time. शशि थरूर ने बढ़िया कहा है, इंडिया में सब समय एक साथ रहते. We have past, we have pre-history, proto-history, ancient, medieval, modern, all these times going on at the same time in India right now, right here. The city of Delhi, where some people living in different eras. So my point is that when we say past or history, point है कि किसकी history. Change is not uniform. So we have not single past but multiple pasts. In our NCERT, I think you have read that NCERT, our pasts, right? Why was the past plural? Because people come from different regions, different communities with different historical experiences, and that kind of plurality of understanding should understand. There is no uniform history, and that is also the third point. That is an important point, plurality. There is no single layer. हरेक के अनुभव थोड़े थोड़े अलग रहे. I'll give a fantastic example that I love to quote. Think of Calcutta, the modern city that British created from scratch, and from Plassey onwards, though it was completely ruled by them. By 1947, it's been almost 200 years since Plassey. It's been almost 200 years of British colonial rule on the Bengali mind, the Bhadralok mind. उनकी memory जो थी was highly shaped, because if you say 200 years, you mean at least 7 to 8 generations. So they have lost the living memory of the pre-British era. They got thoroughly westernized, modernized, anglicized to some proportion. Now think of the last part of India which fell for British. अगर Bengal पहला part है, last part is Punjab. It is almost 100 years after that. In 1840s, Punjab was gone. In 1947, when India became independent, Punjab was colonized only for 100 years and not 200 years like Bengal. So the level to which British could penetrate, British could change social structure, they could exploit, they could teach Indians how to think, what to do, is very less, only 3-4 generations. So I will not be surprised अगर 1947 में एक कोई बूढ़ा सा आदमी पंजाब में होगा जिसकी उम्र 70-80 साल होगी, इसने अपने दादाजी से सुना होगा अंग्रेज के पहले क्या भारत था. लिविंग मेमोरी ऑफ प्री ब्रिटिश इंडिया was alive, at least for some families. So the change that British could impinge upon in Punjab is to less extent. Punjab you will find even today lots of pre-British social ideas, feudal system, etc. It is still alive. So don't you think it is an important aspect for you to understand? जब Bengal, Punjab, whose history, what kind of history, impact is different. So you have to understand that there is plural past and not single past. Now I want to come to the fourth point. That will be the last but most technical point. मैं भूल गया YouTube live है, तो कमेंट देख लेते हैं यहाँ पे. Voice is better, audio is clear. Okay, we have a few comments. They are giving answers. Sorry, I couldn't see on time. Sadhya, Vaishali, Abhiram. Okay. Now, ये तो clarity आपको आ गई that you have different versions of past. If you have different versions of past, if there is such a plurality, is everything subjective? You have plurality, does it mean you have subjectivity? जो आपके चाहे मान लो वो हिस्ट्री, मैं मानूं मेरी हिस्ट्री. डज इट मीन दैट? इफ दैट हैड बीन ट्रू, वैसे आजकल वो भी हो गया है बिकॉज वी आर नो मोर इन मॉडर्न इंडिया और मॉडर्न वर्ल्ड, वी आर इन पोस्ट मॉडर्न वर्ल्ड. इन द पोस्ट मॉडर्न वर्ल्ड आइडिया इज नॉट बिलीविंग इन सिंगल ट्रुथ, राइट? सो वी आर नॉट कंसर्न इन अवर क्लास विद पोस्ट मॉडर्न आस्पेक्ट, तो हम छोड़ देते हैं. कम टू मॉडर्न वर्ल्ड. So in modern world, in subject, my question is, if there are multiple versions, are all versions equally true? There was one very famous British historian, A.J.P. Taylor. A.J.P. Taylor studied World War I, World War II, etc. He has given a very fantastic quote. He says, तो ज़्यादा quote मार रहा हूँ आज, कोई बात नहीं. He says that history is not a catalogue of events. It is a version. It's not a catalogue, it's a version. So which version? If we have 5 versions, which version is seen more authentic? Which version is seen to be more true or more close to the past reality? There has to be some criteria of objectivity. अगर सभी subjective हो जाए तो there is no difference between mythology and history. Right now we don't use lots of mythology when we want to study history because we see there is no evidence. Support mythology may be about universal truth. I'm not saying it is not useful, it is a universal truth, but history is not about truth, it's about facts. Religion will give you truth, yes. I'll come there just now. I'll come there. Nobody decides as such, but there is a mentality. हर ज़माने का दस्तूर होता है. Come there. So my point is, if it becomes completely subjective, then there is no difference in mythology and history. But this binary of history mythology is a typically constructed European binary that depends on one single aspect कि history को support करने के लिए आपके पास facts है. Facts exist. In our history term, these are evidences. You have to prove ये सच में हुआ था. And how do you prove? You need to get some information. How to get information? From some sources. The first sub point of the fourth point I want to mention is that in history there is a very huge role to be played by sources. There can be many events in the past, many fundamental aspects, very significant changes which have left no sources. What to do? We can't do anything. Recently there was a controversy in JNU last month. It was actually a very flimsy controversy, to be very honest, but it became a very big news because of a kerfuffle between a great professor, Gayatri Chakravarti Spivak, and one student of PhD that they had. So in that became news, so people started reading again, acha, who is this person? So there is a professor called Gayatri Chakravarti Spivak. And she is very well known for her study of feminist history, literary history, subaltern, etc. So she has written a book, actually a chapter, a kind of essay. Can the subaltern speak? What does it mean? Can the subaltern speak? People who never had voice in the past, people who never left any evidences of what they think, they never knew how to write, they never had money and education, they must have had been through multiple things, many things, they have no record. What to do? So that part of history we have to excavate somehow, directly, indirectly, but it is largely lost to us. What we are confined to is only what facts we have from the sources we possess. There is no alternative. The larger part of history is gone. We struggle with only what we have. That is one thing. But anyway, we have, at least for some part of history, some sources. A typical thing. What are types of sources? Anybody? So we have inscriptions, artifacts like sculptures maybe. So we have artifacts and literature. What kind of literature do we have? Literature is books. Oh, they are manuscripts and books. Yes, but what kind of books? What kinds of manuscripts? Some religious, some non-religious, some in different languages: Sanskrit, Pali, Prakrit, English, Marathi, Bangla, Odia, Telugu, Tamil. So different languages, different aspects and different audiences. Some books are written for elites, some are for mass consumption. Some books are very technical scientific treatises, some are for entertainment, drama and music. So there are different types of literature and we have to extract bits from all of them. But we have a panoply of literature. Then in inscription, artifacts, coins, we have sculptures, lots of them. So we call this part as archaeological history or sources, and here we have literary sources. This is very easy. Each source has its own kind of strength and weakness relative to each other. जैसे कि लिटरेचर में you may get lost. अभी कल की अखबार में खबर थी नेहरू मेमोरियल इशू, नेहरू पेपर्स, you might have read that. So there is a place called Nehru Memorial Library in Delhi, which is in possession of lots of original documents of over 1000 personalities of modern India. उनके letters and diaries and archive, huge archive. In 2006 या 2007 में 8 में, I don't remember which year, there were lots of Nehru के personal letters के boxes. Some of them were removed by one party and the other party is trying to get them back. So it's about struggle, fight over access to primary sources from which you can write history, either this way, that way, whatever it is. So we have literature. The asli craft of historian hota hai na, what is that? It's not that you can go and read medieval Dutch to get the records. Acha, in Vengurla in Maharashtra in 1625, this was a commodity traded as per medieval Dutch language. Okay, that's fine, that's a fact. Point here is that we have to go to next level and try to corroborate them. Okay? The information we get from literature and from archaeology, does it match? Does it go against each other? So asli maza to craft of historian comes afterwards. जैसे कि corroboration. Look at a very famous example. Have you heard of Pushyamitra Shunga? Pushyamitra Shunga, a king who came to rule parts of North India after the decline of, or by decline, ensuring decline of Mauryan Empire. So in Buddhist literature, for thousands of years, there is an argument that he was a villain. He was demonized by Buddhist literature because he was said to be a destroyer of viharas, a murderer of Buddhist monks, etc., etc. That is the image that you get from literature. It's one version. But if you change the source of history, you go to archaeology, what you have, the greatest and the most beautiful Buddhist stupas of Sanchi and Bharhut in Madhya Pradesh, and they were constructed and embellished, ornamented, beautified, enlarged exactly at that time. And these places are in the heart of his empire. Had he been so anti-Buddhist, would he have allowed that? If I focus on architecture or archaeology as my primary source, then I get a different image of the same person. But if I focus on literature, I get a different image. सवाल ये है how to corroborate. Either one of the two sources is lying with some motivation, or there is some third explanation whereby both of them can be true at the same time. ये काम होता है history. I don't want to go into all these details. I just want to open up your mind to what is actually history. It is not just the story of the kings and queens. I'll give you second point. You have layers of chronology in the same text. The most famous example is a very famous history book that we have in India called Raja Tarangini. Some of you may have heard of the book Raja Tarangini. It's by Kalhan, and Kalhan wrote a history of which part of India? Jammu and Kashmir. Kashmir in that context, Kashmir's history. But if you look at the entire book, he wrote it आज से 1000 साल पहले लगभग, and the book contains history of thousands of years of. It's a fantastic book. So in that book, we have some history of Kashmir from the ancient time, some history of Kashmir from his own time, Allana's own time. Can you say that first chapter, which talks of the mythological part, very old aspect of history of Kashmir, the last chapter where Kallana himself was physically present as a witness and wrote, both of them are equally authentic? They cannot be. The portions where Kallana was himself a witness, he has first hand knowledge, he has seen the things around, we can take it to be more authentic than the portions जो उसने सुना है, कहीं सुनी बातें, hearsay. The point है कि the source, closer it is to the event it is explaining, more authentic it is. जैसे कोई मुस्लिम यहाँ पे है, you know hadith. Hadith जानते हो क्या होता है? I have no idea of hadith. So there are sayings of Paigambar, and these sayings were not written down at the same time. Decades afterwards, they were compiled and they were put in the form of collection of. अब अगर उसमें 2-4 पीढ़ियां चली गई है, if it has been through 3-4 generations, in which of the saying is more accurate, which is less accurate? So you have, अगर दोनों में tussle नहीं है, if one saying of Paigambar and other saying, they are both okay independently, no problem. If they are fighting with each other, if there is contradiction, in which hadith, which statement is to be given more authentic? Simple solution is that we have to trace the source. A statement can be 3 linkages away from Paigambar, एक second, तीसरा person आपने लिख दिया, and other statement can be 6 persons away, 6 degrees of separation. First आदमी ने कहा second को, second ने कहा third को, likewise. So the shorter the chain, more authentic it is, right? Similarly, in Raja Tarangini, the chapters which are closer to his own life, Kallana's own life, are to be taken as more authentic. So ये सारा काम, even within the literary source, you can face these problems. So it's a very difficult craft of a historian. I'll give a famous example. I was teaching for the first time in 2014, and I had a student very innocent, and she said me, "Sir, गीता सही है क्या गलत है? क्या गीता सच है या झूठ है?" मैंने कहा, "How do I know? I have not seen the manuscript. I have the printed version of Gorakhpur Gita Press, Gorakhpur. That cannot prove anything. वो कुछ भी छाप देकर. Although they are known to be very authentic, वो अलग बात है." He said, "No, sir, but in the first adhyaya, first shloka is Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre. So it is saying that they are standing on the Kurukshetra. It means वो सच है, वहाँ पर खड़े थे. It doesn't prove वो खड़े थे. It only proves that the book I have printed in 1972 that says कि वो खड़े थे. अच्छा, so the book must be coming from some other old book. अच्छा, which is that book? How old that book is? Maybe 1550. अच्छा, so I can say in 1550 people believed that वहाँ पे खड़े थे. No, there is some other book that goes back to 9th century that is there today, carbon dated copy, and that says कि वहाँ पे खड़े थे. अच्छा, ठीक है. In 9th century Indians believed कि वहाँ पे खड़े थे. What else? So just by writing something doesn't prove anything. You have to have actual evidence. Evidence create करना, ढूंढ के लाना, उसको I think बहुत मुश्किल. In modern times also, in modern India, you get different versions. एक महात्मा गांधी is so profuse. यहाँ तो गेम उल्टा ही है पूरा. He's written so much. in newspaper, in letters, in diaries, in public, in private, collected, published work of Mahatma Gandhi produced by him personally. There are 100 volumes throughout his life. आपको गांधी स्कॉलर बनना है, गांधी ने क्या लिखा, क्या बोला, वो पढ़ने में आपके जिंदगी चली जाएगी. Then you have to see what others are saying at that time about Gandhi, and then you have to try to analyze. So there is other problem also. There are lots of things, but if you analyze those 100 volumes, you see Gandhi is saying something in person, something in public. These things match. Sometimes they don't match. Then you come to Acha, let us try to interpret that. What was his thing? My point here is that you have to talk about facts, sources. But once the sources are ready, you have analyzed them, you have deciphered them, you have finalized what are the facts. हिस्ट्री का काम खत्म होता है. हिस्ट्री का वर्क एक्चुअली उसके बाद शुरू होता है. सेकंड थिंग दैट यू हैव इज वी कॉल्ड मेथड. The sources give you facts, the story, the narrative, the dates and the events. But that is just the past. As I said, we are interested in change. आपको समझ में आ रहा है मैं क्या बोल रहा हूँ? पक्का? I know this part of fact and change वाला थोड़ा सा technical है, but it is just for one day, for 1 hour. I will not repeat it, don't worry. And UPSC will not ask a question directly on this, but this fundamental understanding will help you a lot in attempting and reading history properly. So, method. Second thing is method. Facts are established, that part is clear. You know fact matlab what. The real question that UPSC historians are interested to ask, why? Why that thing happened? If change is happening, why it is happening? Something is taking place, why it is taking place? So you have to identify what we call as causation. जैसे मैंने कहा, राजा कालस्य कारणम is said by Chanakya. So Chanakya would say if there is great time, it is because of great men. The king is capable, you would have prosperity. If king is not capable, you would not have prosperity. Pura samay aayega. Is it always true? Not completely. Different lenses are there used by different people to understand causation. You had at one point of time something called as great man theory. All the happenings in the world were explained because there was Aristotle, there was some other great person, some other great king or Nawab or Badshah. Well, they have some agency, but beyond that, even before that, if you look at the medieval history, they will say things are happening क्योंकि भगवान की इच्छा. It's the will of God. Sometimes we say यहाँ पे लिखा था, कर्म की बात, नसीब में नहीं था, मैं IAS नहीं बना. अब it's about attribution. What do you attribute the cause? Right? You have in psychology fundamental attribution error वगैरह होता है वहाँ पे, but in history we have to also go into if something is happening, why it is happening. If somebody is doing something, why is he doing that? What was his intention? Anybody coming from legal background here? Lawyer वगैरह, advocate. So one person is there. आप लोग कौन इंजीनियर हो क्या सारे? मेजॉरिटी मेरे जैसे ही हो. ठीक है. The point is that in legal parlance, am I audible? आवाज नहीं आ रही है. स्पीकर बंद हो गए. Am I audible now? Am I audible online? Clear? Okay. So in legal parlance, let us say there is some crime happening and you want to prove the crime in the court of law. What do you do? That exactly the courtroom drama is nothing but historian's craft. Same, nothing else. To create the truth, recreate the truth. But how do you do that? You need evidences, you need witnesses, circumstantial ho, direct ho, material evidence ho, jo kuch. So that is your facts and sources, right? But then you have to not only prove that I killed you, you have to also talk about why did I kill you. जब हम हिंदी में कहते हैं काज़िराते ही दफ़ा समथिंग समथिंग सजाए मौत, उसमें बात किसकी होती है? मौका और मकसद. right? Mauka or maqsad. Mauka matlab you have to show the opportunity for me to kill you. I should not have alibi, मैं कहीं और नहीं हूँ. That is true. So you have to have fact that I killed you. At the same time, you have to show intent क्या है, मैं क्यों मारा तुमको. Because depending on the intent, the saza will change, the punishment will change. If I am killing you in self-defense, why would I get some kind of higher punishment? Maybe execution, फांसी जो. And if I am aggressive, well, उसके अंदर भी shades होंगे. Sometimes I may be hot-headed. Just I flipped, psychological collapse. So I am not in control of my own body. So I should get less saza. Sometimes it's a cold-blooded murder, पूरा plan करके होशो हवस में. Then it gets highest saza. So even when I am killing you, for that same killing, you have gradation of punishment based on the gradation of the reason behind the murder. So what matters is not only the law में बोलते हैं actus rea, but also mens rea. Mens rea. Intention क्या था? In history also, when you talk of the causation method, we are interested in mens rea. The first part was actus rea. What is historian doing? He is his own judge, jury and वकील at the same time. उसका खुद का काम है source लेके आना, analyze करना, proof करना, लिखना और कहना देखो this was the truth. So historian is all these three tasks put into one. उसके दिमाग में कोर्ट चलता है हमेशा, तो चलना चाहिए. That is the craft of historian when it comes to method. Now, based on different eras, different persuasions, different ideologies, you may have different methods and different lenses through which you prove causation. For example, you have imperial history. In India, in modern time, it is British who wrote history of India. So they wrote it what they might have thought as correct, but it also served their own interest. वो कहेंगे भाई आप कौन हो पिछड़े लोग? You are not a nation but a population. It is we who have put you into one nation by conquering different parts of India. We conquered Bengal, Mysore, Maratha, Punjab. आप तो खंड खंड बटे हुए थे. We are all divided. We created political unification. Then we created administrative unification. Then we created legal unification. We brought economic unification. अब हम छोड़ के जा रहे हैं आपको सिखा के. You are the greatest gift that we have given you. Is our proudest day. Proudest day is the exact phrase that Macaulay used. एक दिन ऐसा आएगा इनको हम अंग्रेजी पढ़ाएंगे. We'll teach them English. There will come a day. Then we have to leave this country, and that will be our proudest day. Anyway, point is that this is imperial perspective. To counter that, we have nationalist perspective. You can see that even today. G20 happened in Delhi last year. What was the tagline? India, the mother of democracy. Why? Because British are saying, you are all despotic, आपके पास civilization नहीं. You are not cultured, it is our gift to you, enjoy the democracy. So now we are saying, हमें आपकी जरूरत नहीं है, ठेंगा पहले से हमारे पास है. That is what the whole thing is. So that nationalist response comes to the presupposed, pre-booked question. एक सवाल रखा है, उसका जवाब है. Maybe both of them are wrong to some extent, both of them are right to some extent. That's not a point here. It is their lens. Then you come to Marxist history. They would say, क्या लगा है democracy, democracy? है ही नहीं original कुछ. At no point of time in the history of the world, there was democracy for all people, and there was no class. Classless society चाहिए, तो future में आएगी. So they discard both of them. आप एक कदम आगे चले जाओ. You have feminists. They would say, ये मार्क्सिस्ट भी सारे मर्द हैं. Right? That's what they would say. That the Marxist lens also is very masculine lens. We have to focus on a different perspective altogether. Then you go to Dalit historiography. Recently, this person is writing a lot in Express for last couple of years. का नाम मैं भूल गया. कौन लिखता है? संडे कभी कभी लिखता है. सूरज येंगड़े. सूरज येंगड़े. He is trying to bring that Dalit perspective and critical race theory and all those things. So we have different schools, different styles. So my solution is simple. All of them have to some extent some truth. None of them has monopoly of truth. So we have to go to our ancient wisdom. In Jainism, what we have is Anekantavad. We have one elephant and 5 blind people. they touch different parts of elephant and say देखो ये truth है, this is what history. Different schools are touching different parts of elephant. All of them are true to some extent from their perspective. We have, as a student of history here, and especially for civil service, we should not belong to any school. You should understand कि भाई देखो, this is our stance. Anyway, we don't have to go a lot into details of this. This thing is called as historiography. ऐसे जो schools studies होते हैं, call them historiography. And lots of questions are of importance to us. Take for example, I'll come to modern India to give some examples here. In modern India, we have some questions like, why was India colonized? Can you tell me? Let me give you more questions. Why was there no industrial revolution in India? Why no industrial revolution in? Third question. Why did British decide to leave finally? Why did they give India independence? Fourth question. Why was India partitioned? These are very fundamental questions, and it is in these questions that we are interested. We are not merely interested in studying facts and wars and battles and treaties and actions and movements, वो तो करेंगे ही. But with the help of those facts, we are actually interested in causation. ये क्यों हो रहा है? Why aspect, and that is the crux of history and also modern history. Let us take the fourth question itself. In the fourth question, why was India partitioned? There would be some books which would say, or some historians would say, it was because of Muslim League. Had the Muslim League not been there, India would not have been partitioned, especially because of Jinnah. So Jinnah becomes villain in that story. You go to other end, no, it is British. British actually are the one who sowed the seeds of communalism in India. British आने से पहले there was no Hindu-Muslim problem in India. The first modern riots start in 19th century. It is well after British established their rule and ensured the differences. And look at Mountbatten. What was the need for him to reduce the calendar, bring the date forward and leave quickly? He could have stayed for one more year as per the date which was declared already by the British Parliament in 1948. आने के बाद मनगढ़ंत तरीके से कम समय कर दिया, 90 days, every day clock ticking, मैं जा रहा हूँ टाटा, भाग गए. So we try to put a blame either on British altogether or Mountbatten specifically. Some people say no, but what was the reason for Congress to accept? मना कर दी थी. They could have said हमें नहीं चाहिए independence जब तक हमें partition avoid नहीं होगा. We are willing to wait for next 5, 10, 20 years, 2-3 generations. We will not allow partition. Look at South Africa. Long Walk to Freedom by Nelson Mandela, the name of its autobiography. Why? It was completely uncompromising. भले जो कुछ हो, will not leave principle, will not allow such kind of bifurcation. Bantustan अलग नहीं होंगे. We want democratic South Africa, we want united South Africa. तब तक हम रुकने के लिए तैयार हैं. Why were Congress people not willing to wait? इतनी जल्दी क्या थी भाई? So that question is posed by some other historians. So they try to blame Congress. Why did Congress accept in the first place? What was the reason for its acceptance of partition? So you have three players here. Depending on which school of historiography you belong to, you would apportion. Everybody will accept कि तीनों का role है. सवाल वहाँ नहीं है. Question is, who is responsible more by what proportion? Is it 80-20-20, 80-10-10, 10-80-10, 10-10-80? Yes. Louder. यार आवाज बढ़ा दो यार. It will be done. ठीक है. But there is next angle. Not only it is about apportioning, you just tell them when it is done. ठीक है. You just tell them when it is done. आ रही है आवाज? Okay, thank you. Not only about this relative apportionment of blame, जैसे कि वी हैव क्रिमिनल, आई लाइक टू गो बैक टू लीगल टर्म्स, कॉन्स्पिरेसी होती है, इन कॉन्स्पिरेसी डज एवरी पर्सन गेट द सेम ब्लेम? एक नेता भी तो होता है गुट का, दैट नेता गेट्स मोर ब्लेम. Likewise, amongst the three players, who is to be blamed relatively more? That is the question. But you go one step beyond. आजकल लोग कहेंगे भाई ये तीनों कौन है? All these three, Mountbatten, Jinnah, Gandhi, Patel, all of them are whom? They are elites. A partition of such a subcontinent at huge level, which is decided by direct action on streets, violence पे, can elites decide that? What was the role of masses? Where masses communalized? अगर masses communalized नहीं होते तो क्या partition होता? So is it elite history or is it popular mass history? Who is more responsible, जनता कि नेता? Then somebody will say, from the Marxist side would say, no, it is middle class. It is middle class which created nationalism and communalism both at the same time. तो point है कि second debate starts elite, middle class and masses. Then somebody will say, no, debate यहाँ ना करो, debate यहाँ भी ना करो, debate तो तीसरा है. Why are you looking for causes of partition inside India? Why don't you look at what is in London? Maybe there are some pulls and pressure in London politics, in British Parliament, right? There was obviously Labour government or this imperial Churchill gaya, Attlee आया, जो कुछ है. There are lots of things. So some causes are to be looked into, not in the colony, but in the mother country. It is London. So we have third thing, colony versus mother country. Then they will say, no, these are not the only two factors. What is happening at the global level? Cold War is starting, World War is ended, and in the new politics, such kind of partition becomes necessary. Decolonization is a global phenomenon, right? So you go for world. तो अब आपके पास 3 by 3 का मैट्रिक्स हो गया. You have Muslim League, British Congress, you have elite, middle class masses, your colony, mother country, and the world history. You can interpret the same event of partition for which you have all the facts already ready. You know which commission came, what negotiation happened, what were the terms of references, etc. सब कुछ पता है. But again, when it comes to causation, who is to be blamed and what is the main fundamental fact? इसके बारे में आप मेरे में डिबेट हो सकता है. And that is history. In history, there is no final word. All history books are interim reports. Interim report होते हैं because come next era, come next 10 years, the lens will change, questions will change, answers will. So you have to have the consciousness that whenever you say something is ultimate truth in history, that truth is subscribed in some context कि आप भी आपके era के कैदी हो. You also belong to your own time and space. You will be definitely outdated yourself in next 20-30 years. And that is why history becomes more interesting. History books have to be rewritten for that purpose. Fact based. You know, रात में जैसे आजकल शहरों में दिखता नहीं है, but in night time in the sky, you go to outside city area, you see lots of stars. Within those stars, you have some nakshatras, constellations, right? Like Saptarshi, for example. Tell me very honestly, is there Saptarshi in the sky? होता है ऐसे. It is we who imagine that pattern. The stars, which are undeniable material fact, are your facts. First point, evidences which can't change. They are facts. But the way you connect the stars to create a pattern, it is your causation, your imagination. Facts are sacrosanct. Causation can keep changing. आपने सप्तर्षि देखा, उसमें मैं कुछ और देख लूं, I can see different pattern, no problem. So the second part, or first part, is to arrive at facts with the help of sources. Second part is to interpret the fact. दोनों लेवल पे हिस्ट्री का काम होता है. I hope I have in कितना 1 घंटा लगा, सवा घंटा, जितना भी लगा हो, I have explained the very basics of what is the meaning of history, right? So we started with modern Indian history. I have covered the word history. Now I have to cover the word modern. अब उसको शुरू करते हैं. Let me drink some water and see some comments. Give me 10 seconds. कॉफी भी आई थी, ठंडी हो गई. Okay, I'm audible and no, not many comments. Okay. So let's go to the word modern. What do you mean by modern? Anybody? Is history word clear to all of us? पक्का आप नोट्स बना नहीं रहे हो, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. From tomorrow you will have lots of handouts, but today it's just falsafa, philosophizing. So come to modern. A friend of mine recently bought an iPhone. एकदम modern gadget है, right? Is that modern? उसके कपड़े बड़े modern है. Is that modern? What is modern? तो वो तो अलग बात होगी. What the term modern? What does it mean? But change is happening all the time. So closest to present, it means something which is current, something which is recent. So that is a common parlance or common usage of the word modern, matlab current or recent. But as you said correctly, in history we do not use the word modern in that sense. Because for many academics now, modern is not recent, modern is not current, modern is past. Modern chala gaya, ab hum post modern mein aa gaye, right? So in historical sense, modern is a specific frame of time, specific phase of time. We know that we have, for example, again these periods, alag periods, we have prehistory, then we come to proto-history. These parts will be explained in detail in ancient India, don't worry. You come to the ancient history, you have early medieval, you have proper medieval, you have early modern, then you come to modern era, and now you come to postmodern also. So in that entire evolution of history, when you say modern history, we specifically mean certain part of our timeline which has some specific features. So when you say ये modern history पढ़ रहे हैं, we are trying to say, we are trying to study that part of history which has got certain features which we call as modern. So if you don't know what are those features, you cannot study modern India, you cannot understand what is modern India. It's like हाँ 2 साल से 200 साल पढ़ने, कोई 200 साल ये वो. It's not a random word. It's a very technical and specific word. When does, as you said, modern era start? Forget about India for a moment. Let us talk of generic at global level. When does modern time start? If somebody said around 1500, right? Around 1500. It may be थोड़ा सा आगे पीछे, but it's okay. When you say modern, who said कि I am modern for the first time? You know, when the modern one was created, it was not created as a standalone word. It was created as a counterpoint, as a binary to, as a juxtaposition of medieval. जो जमाना बीत गया है, जो गुजर गया है, ना खराब था, अब हम अच्छे हैं. That is modern. Modern presupposes the pre-modern era was a very bad era. Modern is a good era. We have technology, we have progress, the idea of continuous progress. If we know better technology, if we have better science, we can improve our life. We believe in progress, we believe in rationality, we believe, जैसे कि if you think of politics, for example, in medieval times, के पास क्या था? Had kingdoms, you had feudalism. Discuss this later. What do we have now? We have democracy, we have constitutions. The difference, politics, you had rule of men, Now you have rule of law. It's a very modern concept. You have, for example, in the past, social hierarchies. You had slavery. There is caste system. There is racism. There are different types of social hierarchies. There is loyalty. There is chivalry. I have to use that word also in the medieval context. अब ये सब नहीं है, मतलब ideally नहीं होना चाहिए. When you say modern, what we have is equality. You have human rights, fundamental rights in our constitution, or FR for us in India. Right? You have no more rule of the church. In the medieval time, you have universal church, rise of Islam. What we have now ideally is secularism, individualism, right? These are the aspects of modernity. When you say हम modern era को पढ़ते हैं, what do you mean? Is we study that era which has got all these aspects. That is, so iPhone is not modern. एक आदमी, like our previous Prime Minister Mh-1 Singh, पगड़ी पहनते हैं. पगड़ी is technically a medieval thing, but can you even think of calling him medieval person? He is as modern in his thought process as anybody can be. So he is fully modern person. So just by material possessions and clothing, एक बात है, in the medieval era, wearing headgear was important. Hat हो, पगड़ी हो, साफा हो, because headgear decided आपका समाज में स्थान क्या है. आप upper हो, middle हो कि lower हो. It was a marker of identity and social categorization. इसलिए modern era में टोपी गायब. Now you can wear it for your own purpose, your own liking, but caste signifier नहीं पहनते आप, right? Because now equality की बात है. So my point is that when you think of modern, we think of a modern outlook, a worldview, a mindset. And in a typical history, the question is why, when, where. So if you think that this is modern, this is disputable nowadays, इसकी बात आज बहुत होती है, सही है झूठ है, वो हमारे सिलेबस के बाहर है, but we go with the mainstream history in that if this is modern, where did it arise for the first time? In Europe. We know those typical 6-7 processes which actually brought this change from so-called medieval to so-called modern. आपको पता है ये कब हुआ categorization पहली बार? 3-phase periodization. I am standing in modern times. मेरे पहले वाला जमाना बड़ा खराब था. It was all dark age and it was in rumps. And even before that, before the church became dominant, we had Roman Empire, we had Greek city-state. That was a glorious age and golden age and plus. So a modern man somewhere in 15th, 16th century decided for himself, by himself, this is a modern era. Before that it was medieval era, and before that there was ancient. Ancient was golden age, middle was dark age. Now we are coming out of dark age, a dismantling region, bringing secularism, dismantling old kingdoms, bringing nation state. That is the transition of modernity. सवाल ये है ये क्यों हुआ? In the case of European history, we know we have Renaissance in the field of art and culture. We have Reformation in the field of religion, which created Protestantism and nation states. Then we have scientific revolution at both levels, at scientific level of Newton and Galileo, etc., at principles, basic principles, fundamental ideas, also at technological level, printing press has and lots of things, gunpowder, etc. Then we have age of discovery and commercial revolution, which created for the first time a middle class, which was a vocal and political power. After commercial revolution, we have enlightenment, which applied those principles of rationality, secularism, individualism to everything in the life. And then you have political revolutions, first one being American Revolution, 1770s, which created first constitution in the world, modern constitution. Very soon was followed by French Revolution, and then you have Russian Revolution, then you have Chinese Revolution. Each one has its own characteristic. All these processes together, collectively, over hundreds of years, created what we call as modernity. ऑल दिस, ये इतना आसान चेंज नहीं रहा, इट टुक एफर्ट्स, इट टुक बैटल्स, इट टुक, आज जहां पहुंचे हैं, वी आर हैविंग द फ्रूट्स ऑफ मॉडर्न। अगर आपको कोई पूछता है कि यू गेट टाइम मशीन, वेयर वुड लाइक टू गो इन द पास्ट, कहीं मत जाओ, दिस इज द बेस्ट टाइम इन द हिस्ट्री ऑफ ह्यूमैनिटी राइट नाउ। आज जो लोअर मिडिल क्लास पर्सन एंजॉयज द फ्रूट्स ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी एंड वेलफेयर गवर्नमेंट, उसकी जो लाइफ स्टाइल है विच इज मच बेटर इन द 13th सेंचुरी इंग्लिश एरिस्टोक्रेट। मजाक नहीं कर रहा हूँ, फ्रिज नहीं था, बर्फ मिलने में लाले होते थे, दवा एंटीबायोटिक्स नहीं, आदमी खांसी से मर जाता था, राइट। सो माय पॉइंट इज दैट मॉडर्न एरा हैज गिवन यू द फ्रूट्स ऑफ हेल्थ, technology, education, industrial revolution, everything. So is it a good era? What do you think? To some extent, yes, but it is the same era that has also produced world wars, killing machine, propaganda mechanism itna bhayanak hai, you don't even know what is truth and what is not truth today. Think of five personalities in the midst of the 20th century. We know Hitler, known for Holocaust, killing 60 lakh Jews. We know Stalin, known for Stalinist purges, killing 30-40 lakh people. We know Mao, through cultural revolution, killing equal amount of Chinese. We know Truman. Truman was American president who dropped atom bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And we know Churchill, who killed almost equal number of people right now in Bengal in 1943. 30-40 लाख आदमी मरवा दिया उसने। So all these five people, there is no hero and no villain, or rather all of them are villain in a way for us in India, including Churchill. Churchill's Secret War एक किताब भी है। Point is that it is the modernity and its technological apparatus which gave us the capability of killing hundreds and thousands in a matter of seconds. चंगेज खान को मारने को सालों लगे थे, में सेकंड लगते हैं। Is modernity good or bad? So when we see, we want to study modern India, we have to study how all this both package of good and bad that was developed somewhere outside India was thrusted upon us. Now we come to third part, modern Indian history. हमने history देख लिया, modern थोड़ा सा देख लिया. We don't need to go into modern a lot because part of world history not for Indian history, but you have to have the background because India की कहानी कुछ और चल रही थी. अचानक से अंग्रेज आ गए and our progress got stalled and our history of nation changed to other direction altogether, and this modernity is thrusted upon us. To what extent we accepted it? To what extent we resisted it? Could we resist it? If we accepted, did we accept as it is or modified it? ये है story of modern. When you think of Raja Ram Mohan Roy to Vivekananda, the socio-religious reform movements, you have to think of this. Indian thinkers are grappling with Western modernity. और उसको हमें जो थोपा जा रहा है, how to answer, कुछ लेना है, कुछ नहीं लेना है, कैसे करें, how to decide that, how to judge that. That is the history of modern India. So let me come to now modern Indian history. Let us go to a timeline. Simply, you have about 500 years of history over here, which we study in modern India. आपको पता है इस फेज को पहले क्या बोला जाता है? मॉडर्न इंडिया वाज नॉट कॉल्ड मॉडर्न इंडिया अर्लियर. व्हाट वाज इट कॉल्ड? ब्रिटिश इंडिया. देयर इज अ पर्सन कॉल्ड जेम्स मिल. हैव यू हर्ड ऑफ हिम? जेम्स मिल. he was a servant, a clerk in the Leiden Hall office. Leiden Street थी लंदन में, वहाँ इंडिया हाउस था, हेडक्वार्टर ऑफ ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी, वहाँ का क्लर्क था ये. And this clerk wrote book called History of India in 1815 or 1817 maybe, in the second half of the second decade of 19th century. And he partitioned India's history. तो हमने कहा ना यूरोप में जो हो गया, they decided we are modern, पहले medieval black age, dark era, उसके पहले ancient classical age. This kind of tripartite periodization model was thrusted upon us by the British. We never thought of history that ever. हमारे मन में टाइम कैसे था? साइक्लिकल. 4 युग आते हैं, सत्य युग, द्वापर युग, त्रेता युग, कली युग. एंड विद इन दोज युगास वी हैड डिफरेंट ages, Gupta age, this age and that age. So we did not think of time as a linear progressing entity with continuous evolution of human capability for betterment of life. It was not our concept. But चलो ठीक है, ले आते हैं अंग्रेज, वो भी नहीं किया. When they brought their modernity and thrusted upon India, they purposefully distorted it, and then they thrusted. So James Mill would not call ancient India, medieval India, and modern India. He would write in his official book, Hindu India, Muslim India, British India. This is a communal mind, and his book actually became the textbook for all the ICS officers for generations to rule India. वो वहाँ पे अंग्रेज यहाँ आने से पहले back in England they were indoctrinated in that kind of thinking, and then they were sent to India as rulers. And this is such an illogical division. What is Hindu India? Where are Buddhists? Where are Jains? And do you decide the name of the era based on religion? Why not region? Why not language? Okay, if that is the reason, come to medieval India. Are all the rulers of medieval India Muslims? And who is Krishnadeva? Who is Shivaji? Chalo theek hai, let us accept even then that there is Hindu India and Muslim India. Now why is not there Christian India? अब अंग्रेज कहाँ से आ गए बीच में? So this is the thinking, a very insidious and dirty thinking, which was used to communalize British Indian administration, and gradually over next 100 साल तक that became the text and the text. In 1915 or 1905, Vincent Smith wrote next version of books, और फिर किताबें change. E.A. Smith, Vincent Arthur Smith. So anyway, so this is imperial history. Nationalists had to respond. उन्होंने कहा ना ना, we don't accept this Hindu, Muslim and British. We have to use the neutral term, secular term. Let us go to ancient, medieval and modern. But even then the problem remained because the years were the same. बस नाम चेंज करके क्या होगा? You have to find out. When I say history is the study of not past but change, then something has to be different in ancient and then medieval. तब तो उसका कुछ मतलब है, वरना सबका ancient बोल दो. If you are using different term, you have to prove there are certain characteristics of the age which are unique, which are defining. Only then you can give it a name. अभी तो कुछ मतलब है. So this is an ongoing debate. But point here is that come to this modern India, so-called modern India. Here you will see there are certain important events. In 1498, who came to India? Vasco da Gama. उसके 50 साल पहले कोलंबस कहाँ गया था? कोलंबस or West Indies rather, to be very specific, but American continent. Yes. So we have this age of discovery in Europe, and in that age of discovery they have started to come to India. This is the arrival of Portuguese. Portuguese remained important for almost this era till 1580s, when Portugal was captured by Spain, and then the decline started. In 1600 you have British East India Company established. In 1602 the Dutch one. So Dutch 2 साल बाद में आए, but Dutch got good head start. British were very feeble. They couldn't do much for 100 years. Dutch आगे चले गए, पीछे से आगे चले गए. So this century is primarily a century of Dutch prominence in the global trade. That is the 17th century. Then you come to the 18th century. By the time you come to 18th century, Dutch-British conflict has happened. Dutch have decided we want to focus on Indonesia, not on India. British were ousted from Indonesia and they came to India primarily. So we have British, but sometime in 1664, French company was established. और सबसे late में, they are late by many generations, 3 generations. Yet by 1720s, French went ahead with huge amount of trade, and they emerged as the most important challenge to the British. So यहाँ पे 1740s and 50s you see Anglo-French battle, Anglo-French wars. वो हम पढ़ते हैं Carnatic War 1, Carnatic War 2, Carnatic War 3. And as a part of Third Carnatic War, in the Bengal theatre, we have Plassey. So यहाँ पे Portuguese were removed. They remain in pockets, but they were no more power. Then Dutch were weakened in India. French and British ultimately settled. यहाँ पे you have this Carnatic War. So this is the first phase of history. Who will rule India? That is our questions यहाँ से आते हैं. Especially in prelims, you get typical questions of factory sites and charters and whatnot, ports and treaties. We have to study, but context के साथ. So this is going on. You know, at the same time, what is happening in India? Babur came to India over here in 26. So Vasco da Gama came first, Babur came later. Portuguese पहले आए हैं, मुगल बाद में आए इंडिया में. समझो इसको, दिमाग में घुसाओ इसको अच्छे. ठीक है. Point is, but he was hugely successful in creating, he and his son Akbar, उसका जो नातू पोता जो कुछ, they created a very powerful empire, that is Mughal India. But Mughal was a land-based power, and these European companies were maritime power. So it was a checkmate. Both need each other. So that's why you see till the time from 1526 till 1707, when Mughals are powerful, there have been some attempts. जैसे कि in 1630s हुगली से डचों of Portuguese भगा दिए. We have lots. We have 1680s. British thought कि now they have become powerful, they can conquer India. Child's war. बॉम्बे कलकत्ता युद्ध शुरू हो गया, हम इंडिया जीत लेंगे, और औरंगजेब ने उसको तुरंत बंद कर दिया. Because Mughals were still very powerful. So we have certain attempts, but very feeble. But after 1707, when Aurangzeb died, India starts changing. We have political fragment. Different parts of India, different powers start emerging. See the map of India. We have Bengal Suba becoming independent with the capital Murshidabad. The founder was Murshid Quli Khan. If you come to UP part, we have Awadh, or as they used to write in back days, OUDH, Oudh, right, in the historical documents. Lucknow, founded by, nahi yaad aa raha aapko, Saadat Ali Khan, right. Then here we have Hyderabad, founded by Nizamul Mulk Asaf Jahan Chin Kulich Khan, right. So these are some of the states which emerged on the deathbed of Mughal Empire. They parcelized Mughal Empire, but they carried the same tradition ahead. जैसे कि एक famous example है, you take a big mirror, you can see your image. That huge mirror is Mughal Empire. If the mirror falls on the ground and breaks into pieces, you can still see yourself in small pieces. They carry the same culture, same tradition, same values, same principles, but at regional level with certain modifications. So these are the states which carry the Mughal tradition ahead. On the other hand, we had certain states which are rebel states. Like here you have Marathas. Later on we have Punjab, etc. We have Jat, we have Rohillas, we have Bundelas, etc. So these states actually rose in arms against the Mughals. So they were on the other side, but still you have fragmentation of. There is a third case. The third case is of some states which are neither here nor there. जैसे कि you have यहाँ पे Mysore state of Wadeyars first, and then Hyder Ali and Tipu Sultan. Here you have Travancore, very famous state by Martanda Varma. and his battle with Dutch, Battle of Kolachel. So you have this entire fragmentation politically of India. So when British decided to capture India step by step, they did not defeat Mughals. Mughals तो नाम के लिए रहे दिल्ली के अंदर, शहनशाह आलम प्लस दिल्ली ता पालम, you know that, दिल्ली से पालम तक तो उनका राज था. They symbolically they are very important, practically they were useless. So practical battles you see that we study here, यहाँ से British start conquering India, वो कौन से है? You have to look at Bengal, Mysore, Marathas and Punjab. The 4 major regions and in other smaller regions. So we study 2 Bengal wars, Plassey and Buxar. We study 4 Anglo-Mysore wars. We study 3 Anglo-Maratha wars and then 2 Punjab, Anglo-Sikh wars. It's a story of political conquest, but this conquest happened when Mughals were already gone. जब तक मुगल थे तब तक हिम्मत नहीं करी, हिम्मत करी तो दबाए गए. अब इसके बाद दिस इज इंटरेस्टिंग. ब्रिटिश कहेंगे क्या? देखो, when we came, क्या हाल था? We were all fighting against each other. As Dalrymple calls, the phrase that Dalrymple used in the Anarchy, किताब एक Anarchy नाम की, it's village against village and town against town. सब लोग झगड़ा कर रहे हैं. It's full of capacious. We are here. हम आपको आपसे बचाने के लिए गुलाम बनाएंगे. That is the British, and they almost succeeded it in telling us. I am not joking. Look at the first Congress session in 1885, the speech given by Dadabhai Naoroji. You know what he said? He says there, either in 85 or later year, I don't remember which era, 86 maybe, that to British, जब तक अंग्रेज नहीं थे, it was impossible and unthinkable for us to leave our family and property behind, go to other corner of India and have a conference. It is only because British established rule of law, British gave us train, हम travel कर पा रहे हैं निर्भय होके. हमारी बीवी बच्चे घर पे कोई लूटेगा नहीं, गारंटी है, आपने पुलिस रखी है. Thank you British, helping us to establish Congress. In the first Congress session that happened in Bombay, you know how it ended on the 3rd day. British रानी को कैसर हिंद बन के 27 years हुए. It had been 27 years since the Victoria became Queen of India, Empress of India. So उसके बदौलत on the final day of Congress session last year, they said hippie purre 27 times. So earlier generation of Congress was thinking the same thing. उनको कहानी फीड कई करी थी अंग्रेजों ने, अगर हम जाएंगे तो you will go back to this kind of, you are not a nation, you are but a population. आप तो बटे हुए कास्ट में और धर्म में, और आप कहाँ नेशन आते, आपका नहीं. को पढ़ना जरूरी इसलिए है, just and are these arguments still valid? If yes, why? If no, why? कि आज भी आसपास वही चलता रहता है अभी भी. These things, history is still present, it has not gone in the past. So anyway, so this is what we call as the 18th century India. The first part of our history we'll see is this advent of Europeans till Carnatic Wars. The second part of history is Mughal decline of modern Indian history and emergence of regional states, the reasons of Mughal decline, the patterns of regional states, etc. And then how they were conquered by British one by one. Hypothetically, आप सोच के देखो, had British not come to India, what would have happened? India was going through some historical process already anyway. British बीच में से आके रास्ता बदल दिया हमारा. अगर नहीं आते, hypothetically, it's a speculative question, what would have happened? Mughals were already gone. You never know. देखो, you have to look at the world. We cannot imagine randomly in the vacuum. You have to think based on what was the trend at that time, and secondly, what happened across the world. Take the example of Japan. There was an attempt to colonize Japan. Admiral Perry went there in 1850s. Japan was forcefully opened up. Within matter of 2 decades, Japan ने क्या किया? It was also divided. There were shoguns, shogunates. They voluntarily came together they said we want to unify once more, cannot have this political division. Our king जो क्योटो में है उसको टोक्यो में लेके आओ, पश्चिम से पूरब में, and let us create a new state under the name of the king, Sun Emperor. It was called Meiji Restoration. जापान ने समझा we need to politically unify ourselves. Not only that, we need to be able to defend ourselves. ऐसे करेंगे, we also need to have equally strong army. वो कैसे आएगी? We need to have equally strong resources. वो कैसे आएंगे? We need to copy West. Industrial Revolution. So within one generation, Japan did that. One generation from 1860s to 1890s, complete country change. Sub change. That was the will, and that is one example. The other example, Shashi Tharoor was asked the same question in one interview. He said that among all the powers in India at that time, one power that was becoming all India power was the Marathas. And Marathas might have become all India. They might have replaced Mughals completely. Question is not that Maratha Empire aa jata. That is not the point. Koi na koi aa hi jata. What would have happened then? Was there any potential within that pan-Indian empire to move towards industrial revolution and to move towards modern democracy? क्या वो था या नहीं? आपको मुझे नहीं पता. We cannot judge because we never were given opportunity. There is a book written in Bengali in 1900, Swapner Labder Bharatiya Itihash. Anybody Bengali here? आप लोग कहाँ से हो सर? ना हिस्टोरियन है ना एक लीगल आदमी निकला. Which part of India do you come from? North. North is fine. Largely north only I can understand that. But which part of north? Punjab is one. Rajasthan, UP, MP, Maharashtra, Haryana. So north of Narmada mostly north of Narmada. The point is that we were never given opportunity. Was my point. Anyway, come here. So this is the second part, 18th century India. Then starts the third part. Do we have time? आपका आधा पौना घंटा है ना और? है ना? So let me come to the PDF now. I have discussed this part. I have discussed the second part also. We'll discuss all these details later on as we go chapter by chapter. I want to give you the big picture only today. Then I have this table. I think this is a very important table for us to understand. Sai Lokesh, we'll discuss the sources in the end. Sources, I am the source. Okay. I'll give you all the names of books that are required. Don't worry. So history में sources का profusion है. Problem is not the paucity. Problem is the profusion and what not to read. ये बात end में करेंगे. Try to understand. थोड़ा पानी पी लो. अब सवाल तो पूछते हो नहीं तो I can't get break to drink. पूछो. See, I'll tell you one thing. If you are remaining silent, there are only two possibilities. एक तो मैं सबसे खराब टीचर हूँ, आपको कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा. I am the best teacher in the world, आपको सब समझ में आ रहा है. I have no idea. Anyway, come to this. Now let us come to the next phase, the colonization. Creating colonies was also an outcome of such kind of modern era. It started in Europe. That's the dark side of modernization or modernity. Create colonies. So modernity is, जैसे हम कहते हैं ना, in the Greek city states back in the ancient era, there was democracy for select few. The democracy was standing on the dead bodies of slaves. It was not actual democracy. Demos जो है is just those Greek people. Similarly, the modernization or modernity of Europe standing on the skeletons of rest of the world by creating colonies and Holocaust and whatnot. But anyway, we have to see colonization, or rather the enforcement of modernity is not very easy process. It is hugely violent, and we cannot sanitize that violence. We can, when we think of violence, हम सोचते हैं जलियांवाला बाग. How many people were killed in Jallianwala Bagh? Government report said 350 and Congress report said 1000 plus, 1000, 2000. Every life is important, no doubt, but now compare that 1000 number with what happened in this very city of Delhi 1857. The moment Delhi was recaptured by British, in 3 days पूरे शहर में एक पेड़ ऐसा नहीं था जो लाश लटक नहीं रही. Everybody above 17, 18 and below 50, 60 was killed by British. 30,000 people were killed in 3 days. तो पढ़ते भी नहीं थे, लड़े भी नहीं थे, घर के common people, just to take British. And in over next couple of months, the total executions out of retribution, not war casualties, retribution were more than 1 lakh. Should not forget that. Modernity is imposed upon us in a very violent manner. So you have to look at that also. हम बात करते English language आई, it's good. Now imagine कितना ऐसे when history is present, सोचो, I am speaking in English. You have come here to understand British history of India, to appear to the exam conducted by UPSC since colonial time, to become IAS which was ICS. तो आप और मैं तो अभी अंग्रेजी से जी रहे हैं यहाँ पे, right now, right here. You have to be cognizant of that. Anyway, come back here. Now from 1750s, when the Plassey happens, till 20th century, this period is divided into 3 phases. The mercantile phase, industrial phase and financial. I have to explain this very well because history is no more to be studied as list of facts, list of governor generals and their policies. So किताबें market में मिलती है like Spectrum. I recommend not to read that book. Purchase a book, you buy a book, you will have FOMO, I know that. आप खरीद के लाओगे, रखो. If you need any point of time, खोल के देखो, but I strongly advise against book called Spectrum because it is merely collection of facts, does not illuminate you, does not make you a thinking person. You don't see history, you just see facts, and without that you can't clear the exam. See history properly. So my strong advice to all of you, अगर आपको FOMO हो रहा है, स्पेक्ट्रम खरीद के रखो अलमारी में, no problem. I will provide you all the handouts from all the standard resources. You will read one NCERT and handouts. NCERT handouts are more than sufficient. We will solve all the PYQs in the class, both subjective and objective, over next 35, 38 lectures. So PYQs will be clear, pre or mains दोनों के. Content will be provided every single day, a handout of 10 to 15 pages. It will be more than sufficient. And NCERT just for the sake of basic requirement and clarity and language and fluidity. I am damn sure इतने लोग यहाँ सारे बैठे हैं. Once our lectures are over, we will recommend everybody, Spectrum पढ़ रहे हो, तेरा नहीं होगा. My point is that keep that book for collection of facts as a reference. कभी जरूरत पड़े तो it is not required because I am going to tell this table. This table will tell you why I am saying that. Now imagine this, that you are a country like England, you want to go to far off country, bring your army, take efforts for generation and create empire, create a colony. Why? What is the motive? ऐसा सीधी बात है. So there are some other reasons like national pride and spread of religion, evangelism that are there, but the fundamental motive is profit. But understand that economic structure does not remain the same. The way you earn profit also doesn't remain the same for a long time. It is a changing economy, profit patterns change. So when British came to India, they were Plassey in 1750s. At that time, the 13 American colonies were still with the British. British Empire का part थे. 1770s, America got independence. And by the time India became independent in 1947, it is a vastly different Britain. Industrial revolution started in Britain in 1780s, 1790s, India को conquer partly करने के बाद. So if you have in your mind British are looting India in the same fashion for 200 years, it is not. History is study of change. Study of change, we have to study with the time how the methods of exploiting India change. And in that, इसका जो premise है वो ये है, the British requirements also changed over. When they came to India, they were not industrializing. After Plassey plunder in 1760s, 70s, 80s, 90s, they start industrial revolution based on money that they got from it. India missed the burst of industrial revolution. अपने पैसे लेके वो कर लिए. We'll study that also. My point is that this phase that you have is called mercantile phase. This is mostly pre-industrial revolution. यहाँ पे British are coming to India for what purpose? For profit, true. But how do they want to earn profit? By exporting Indian industrial goods. हमारा handicraft, हमारा कपड़ा. They want to export that. But to export that, they want to purchase that in India. How will they purchase? They have to pay something in return. We don't want anything. We have everything that we produce, that we need. We need only one thing, Sona Chandi. Fortunately, British, or rather, before Columbus, before Vasco da Gama came to India, fortunately Columbus had found America. American continent was colonized very quickly, and there, especially in Latin America, they got access to huge amount of gold and many new silver mines. Huge amount of slavery was used to extract silver from entire Latin America. That silver went to Europe. From Europe, it went to India. It's during Mughal era. And with that silver, they were purchasing Indian commodities, selling in the Europe and earning huge amount of. But उनके मन में जलन थी. हम इनको silver. They had nothing else to give us, so they had to give silver, but they did not want to give us silver. It was a precious metal. Not only British, but every other European company before them also. So they wanted to devise newer and newer methods to ensure ये balance of trade maintain हो, and we can get some commodities from India without having to pay for it in bullion. Bullion मतलब silver. So, for example, look at all those companies. First came Portuguese, although not a company as such, but Portuguese. What was their strategy? They had to bring silver, but to minimize that, they said we will monopolize the Indian Ocean. Indian Ocean is our territory. If you want to go anywhere, हमसे permit खरीदो. So it was Carthage. We know that Carthage system. We'll discuss that, but I want to give you some perspective now. So Portuguese actually did not add any value by conquering parts of Indian Ocean. They were just using their strength, scheme of the milk. पर की क्या बोलते हैं उसको? Cream or मलाई लेने के लिए. They did not change any economy. They did not bring any proper technology. Did not create new cities. Nothing. जो चल रहा था, it was a custom house. It was a banditry. Nothing else. But using that custom duty, using that wealth, used to monopolize some trade and divert it. तो उनका ये तरीका था. But it was not long lasting anyway. In the 16th century, it got died out. Then came Dutch. Dutch are actually called as the fathers or the originator of modern capitalism. And they have done immense amount of work, create these modern financial instruments. Simply कहा जाए तो it is a profit motive. But it has got lots of implications. We'll study in world history. Basically this. Now, the idea here is that Dutch came and they thought of a new method. How to minimize giving silver to Indians. They said, we'll do one more extra business. We'll capture intra-Asian trade from India to Sri Lanka, from India to Indonesia, from Indonesia to Japan, from Japan to China, from China to India, India to Africa. ये सारा एशिया के अंदर के ट्रेड रूट्स हैं ना, वो हम कैप्चर करते हैं, वहाँ धंधा करते हैं. Let us earn some money from that business, and from that earned money, from that profit, let us purchase Indian commodities. So that was their economic model, capture intra-Asian trade. But it was also not completely successful. Then came British. British were more flexible. They were like Reliance. Matlab, we don't want to get attached emotionally to any single commodity. Portuguese tried to monopolize paper. Dutch wanted to monopolize textile. हमें कोई फर्क नहीं पैंदा, जहाँ से प्रॉफिट मिले हम सब करेंगे. So they tried to expand the commodity basket. जो प्रॉफिट है सब करेंगे. इंडिगो ओके, गन पाउडर ओके, जो कुछ चाहे सब में बिजनेस. तो एक्सपांशन ऑफ कमोडिटी बास्केट, दैट वाज देयर मेथड to be flexible to get into this territory. Then came French, little late. French were most ingenious. They had a different method. They created an army of Indians. They trained Indians, although racist to the फिर भी with European methods of war and drill, discipline and muskets and whatnot. Discipline, army formations, and then they said, now it is 1730s, 1730s. Mughals are weak. Lots of Indian powers are fighting with each other, and within every power there are different groups in the court. दो भाई हैं, चार भाई हैं. Do you have inside family some competition to get the throne, and outside that wars between two neighboring states all the time to expand their territory. बड़ा मौका अच्छा है. Let us lend our army to Indians. एक साइड को सपोर्ट करते हैं, तो थोड़ा पैसे देते हैं, उनको अपनी आर्मी देते हैं. अपनी आर्मी तो बेटर है, यूरोपियन ड्रिल, मॉडर्न टेक्नोलॉजी, एंड यूजिंग आवर आर्मी, इफ वन साइड विंस ओवर अदर साइड, में खूब पैसा मिलेगा. विल हैव पॉलिटिकल लीवरेज इनसाइड द लोकल कोर्ट, एंड देन विल यूज दैट एक्सपांड अवर कमर्शियल मोड. दैट वाज वाइडली सक्सेसफुल. That was the same model that Clive used in Plassey later. Clive is not original. He is mostly adventurous but not innovator. Innovation तो French का है, in Carnatic. That was a French model, and using that influence in the court will earn money and will shut out every other company and will have profit. British आते हैं. British said, अच्छा, we will copy you. British actually used the French template from South India, apply it in Bengal, and they capture Bengal in Plassey. Suddenly, they don't know what is happening. They got so rich. And Plassey के बाद the crisis that happened that led to Buxar. In Buxar, they got Diwani. The moment they got Diwani rights, they got the right to collect the revenue. ये तो सबसे बढ़िया तरीका है. इंडिया से टैक्स कलेक्ट करो और use that revenue, use that tax to buy Indian commodities और बाहर बेचो. 100% profit, because you don't have to bring any silver now to India. No bullion. Return of wealth जो हम पढ़ते हैं, since the time of Harappa to Roman Empire to Mughal Empire, there was a return of wealth in favor of India. Because of Clive, return of wealth got reversed overnight. पहली बार 2000 साल में, 3000 साल में. So that is the point. A new model emerged. Let us capture the political power, get hold of the taxes, use those taxes to buy Indian commodities, and then have full profit. So that Indian taxes, Indian revenues which they collected and then bought Indian commodities, उसको वो बोलते थे investment. That was called Indian investment. Diwani revenue was used for Indian investment. These words are so innocuous, you won't even know क्या कहना चाहते हैं. So that is the finally successful model. Portuguese started Carthage in 1510s, 1520s. Ultimately in 1750s they found solution. ये मॉडल क्रैक करने में यूरोपियंस took 250 साल. So you have a huge history of attempting to ensure how to loot India. Then that happened ultimately, that started our phase. So we come to here, mercantile phase. So my point was, in every phase they had a different pattern of looting India. We have seen the 4 or 5 patterns now. Let us come to after this era, after Plassey Buxar, how the pattern evolved. In the first phase, their idea is simple: stop the bullion coming to India and oust all other European companies to create monopoly. So Dutch को हटाओ, French को हटाओ, बस हमारी monopoly रहे. And then you have to maximize the revenue collection through Diwani to finance Indian trade and commerce. 100% profit. Clear? तो हम जो सोचते हैं ना हमेशा that British wanted to extract Indian raw material and sell British industrial goods in India, वो तो है ही नहीं. That thing starts in second era, after industrial revolutions took steam. But India got colonized even before that. The first model was different. That we have in our mind, that is second model. Then we have third model afterwards. In the first model, the idea is not to destroy Indian industries, but to extract Indian industrial goods, craft goods, handicraft goods, and sell in Europe. So now if you have that clarity, then all other aspects of politics, administration, society, culture fall in line. होता क्या है, in our textbook, spectrum हो या NCERT हो, हम पढ़ते linearly है. We go from Plassey, Buxar, Mysore, Maratha, Punjab, 1857. So you read the political history completely first. Then you go to next chapter. You have history of administrative structure, legal system, and reforms, etc. Then you have history, a chapter on economic exploitation of India. So we have in our books chapterization in horizontal way. But our attempt here is to not go horizontally, but to go vertically. And that becomes very useful and very logical to remember all the facts, to convert the facts into logic, and also write very good answers in main. Because you can generate dimensions on the spot because you know the interconnection. It is not memorization. Why it is logic? Just understand the first column very well. The first column, you know the overall objective of how to loot India, how to exploit India. यहाँ पे उनको करना है shareholders का profit maximization. So they don't want to go on aggressive wars to conquer India unnecessarily. They want to, युद्ध करना बड़ा महंगा होता है. Fighting war is very costly. It reduces profit margin. लंदन के shareholder चिल्लाते हैं profit बढ़ाओ, profit बढ़ाओ. तो यहाँ पे simple idea is that इतना conquer कर लिया, guard करो, trade बढ़ाओ. How to increase the trade? By ensuring the area that you have conquered remains undisturbed. If somebody comes and destroys your territory, next year you have less agricultural revenue. मतलब you can't have enough trade. नुकसान में चले गए. The first idea is to go for ring fence policy. If I have captured Bengal, let me ensure Bengal ki security properly. How do I do that? I create Awadh state, Bundelkhand state as buffers. So if there is invasion of Marathas or of Afghans, so my territory will not get affected. Ring fence policy. We want to go for defense, not offense. So all the wars that happened in this era, Plassey, Buxar, 4 Anglo-Mysore war में एक छोड़ के, first 2 Anglo-Maratha wars, you will see that is the subsidiary alliance comes in at the same time by the end of 16th century. What is that? We want to create army, but we don't want to pay for it. We'll make all Indian states to pay for our army. Right? Minimize the cost, increase the profit. So you can see how the political, we'll see all these wars one by one. चिंता मत करो, हमें देखना है अंदर जाके. But understand larger context. If you come to administration, simple idea, you have to minimize the expenditure. Don't overhaul Indian administration. Let us use whatever is there and just put a top layer on that, exploit. So maintain old Mughal structure with some modification. Like Clive would go for diarchy, dual government. Why? जिम्मेदारी नहीं चाहिए, बस पैसा चाहिए. So it brings. So when you say British started to change India, they did not. They, in this phase at least, they did not want to change India. They wanted to use India as it is to their fullest. Then Hastings Cornwallis attempted some reforms, but they are very minimalistic. We have acts that came in this. So these acts can be interpreted in this context of mercantile trade. You come to economic policies. You know the change in balance of trade happened. Stop the bullion import. Revenue was used as investment and origin of wealth from Plassey and Buxar onwards. So now they started to exploit India to such an extent, Indian handicraft started declining on their own. इतना कोई सहन नहीं कर पाता. You know, there is a very famous saying, I will use it once again later on, कि ब्रिटिश ने क्या किया, कैप्चर्ड बंगाल, एंड इतनी ग्रीड है, they don't want to go to villages to purchase the textile from different houses of craftsmen. They would say, सबको पकड़ो, उठा के कलकत्ता ले आओ, हमारे फैक्ट्री में काम करो, और उनको पैसा मिलेगा वेजेस. Earlier, the craftsman was a businessman. He used to earn profit on his craft. Now, he's reduced to become a wage earner labor with the help of political force the British have. पुलिस उनकी है, क्या करोगे आप? So what did Indians do? You know, there are descriptions, very graphic descriptions of 1780s जहाँ पे Indian craftsmen जो ऐसे craftsmen है, world class craftsmen, the history of the world, पूरी दुनिया के सबसे बेहतरीन क्राफ्ट्समैनों ने क्या किया, अंगूठे काट दिए by their own, cutting their thumbs, because the thumb is not there, they can't work, British have no use of them, they will not be forced to shift to British factory and work for them. World class craftsmen are cutting their thumbs by their own just to save the harassment. But so that led to some decline, but British are still trying to extract handicrafts. We have zamindari settlement, that is a very characteristic feature of this era, 1793. To come to the next cultural aspect, this is very interesting. British wanted not to interfere in India, because if you interfere, if we bring modernity, तब खर्चा आएगा. So let us minimize interference, बस पैसा कमाना. And if we interfere, people might react. Why to antagonize them? धंधा कर लो भाई. So they are not interested in the future of India. But on the other hand, they still wanted to rule. How to rule without interference? By being insider. It was a reverse acculturation of. They said India बहुत बड़ी. We have at that time William Jones started to translate all these things. He discovered their parent language and all those things. English and Farsi and Sanskrit all have the same roots, Indo-Aryan language, etc. He started Society of Bengal. Leslie created Fort Williams College in Calcutta. We have translations, etc., through which they start to learn Manusmriti, Vedas, Fatwaya Alamgiri, translate them. They claim, Indian culture, what a great culture. Why? We have बचपन में सुना था कि गटे नाम का जो कवि था, अपने सर पे शाकुंतल लेके नाचा था, पागल हो, क्या बढ़िया शाकुंतल लिखा कालिदास ने. So on one side they have a genuine appreciation of Indian culture and art and history and all this poetry, etc. I am not doubting that, but look at the other purpose. The intent is learn Indian languages, Indian culture, use it to rule India by being insiders. So in Fort William College, they would teach the British people Farsi and Bengali, Tamil. ये सीखो ताकि आप राज करो. They would respect your culture. हम भी कहते क्या अंग्रेज इतना बड़ा आदमी लेकिन हमारी तहजीब को मानता है. You have in the city of Delhi, in Chandni Chowk, दिल्ली का first resident David Ochterlony. He was known 17-18 बीवियां थी, and he used to ensure कि हर दिन शाम को चांदनी चौक में 17-18 हाथी के ऊपर एक एक पालकी में मेरी बीवी नचाऊंगा मैं. Because I want to become like Nawab, like decadent Mughal Nawab. I want to follow their culture. We have a very famous painting of one governor in Bengal, हुक्का पी रहा है चटाई पे बैठ के. So they are called white Mughals. They want to get a cultured in Indian tradition, show that they are appreciating everything. आपका culture बढ़िया है, हम तो बस business करने आए. But their intent to rule India through being Indian. And they also want to show the world कि भाई Indian culture कितना बढ़िया है, Indian माल भी खरीद लो. So they want to create brand India at global level. तो already था, but they want to ensure it survives because they can earn more profit over that. So in the first phase, when we study till 1800s, from Plassey, जो 50 years of rule, British don't want to destroy Indian culture. They want to use Indian culture to rule over India by becoming. This is called as Orientalism. Orientalism. Now comes the next phase. In the next phase, something changes drastically and fundamentally, and that is industrial revolution happens. Now we know that when company came to India, it was given charter of monopoly by Queen Elizabeth, that you have the full rights. Nobody from England will come there. The company had monopoly of trade over India. Company could regulate who will come to India, who will not come to India from England. The full strategy for that. Why? From 1780s, 90s, gradually there was change in Britain. Britain underwent industrial revolution. इसका economic structure change हो गया. Instead of old aristocrats, now we have cities and industrialists. They have money, they have power. The interest of these industrialists was in contrast with the interest of the company. Company wanted to have monopoly, industrialists wanted to have free trade and competition. Company wanted to sell Indian final goods to England, but these industrial people wanted to buy Indian raw material and sell in India British final goods. तो ये तो इकोनॉमिक मॉडल ही पूरा अलग हो गया. So company started to see enemies not in India but in England, and gradually as industries began to prosper, these industrialists became more and more prominent. Company ने क्या करा? Company started to bribe the MP. British Parliament इतनी corrupt थी, क्या बताऊँ, आज भी है वैसे, but anyway. So British Parliament is anyway at that time there was no Act of 1832, reform तो हुआ नहीं था, और pocket boroughs. The company started fielding its candidates, buying MPs, cash for vote scam was very normal back then. But जब तक कंपनी के पास पैसा था, कंपनी gradually industrialists also became powerful. They also became rich. They also started to counter money with money, corruption with corruption. British Parliament दो भाग में बढ़. After every 20 years, when Charter Act would come for renewal, 1793, 1813, 1833, same debate. Company के पर काटो. And over 40 years, gradually, industrialists became much more powerful. Company was reduced. That phase, we started to open up India. That is this phase, industrial capital. So now the interest is changed. Now to convert India as a market for British manufactured goods. पहले नहीं था. And supplier of raw material. So reverse हो गया पूरा. So once economic interest is reversed, all the political, cultural, social, economic policies change. Let's see how. We have now the company saying we want to capture as much area as possible and bring it under direct rule as much as possible. Annexation, neo-imperialism, paramountcy. Why? Because if we have more control over more area directly or more directly, we can extract raw material easily. Then it is this time when we have नहीं चाहिए था, but anyway, but Anglo-Maratha War and Punjab. Dalhousie comes with the doctrine of lapse the same time. डलहौजी की वो आइडिया होगी नहीं होगी फर्क नहीं पड़ता. राजा कालस्य कारणम नहीं है. डलहौजी पॉलिसी ऑफ डॉक्ट्रिन ऑफ लैप्स रिप्रेजेंट्स द इकोनॉमिक इंटरेस्ट इन दिस फेज ऑफ द कंपनी. इसको समझो आप. दैट इज हाउ यू रिमेंबर थिंग्स, दैट इज हाउ यू राइट आंसर्स. एंड हियर at the same time you also have at the global level something called as great game. In the great game, what happened? We have Victorian England and Tsarist Russia. England is growing from Bengal to South India to Deccan to North India gradually. Russia is expanding from Moscow side to entire Siberia and then coming from Central Asia. दोनों का clash होने वाला. And there is a buffer zone in between, and the competition to have influence in that middle buffer zone between Russia and India called Great Game. It went on for 100 years. बहुत अच्छी किताबें भी हैं. Cold War अगर is a feature of the second half of 20th century. Similarly, Great Game is the feature of entire 19th century. Fantastic great. In context of India, it decided British policy towards India's frontiers. All the wars you see in Nepal, in Sikkim, Burma, Afghanistan, Punjab, Sindh, all these things in Tibet in 05, all these frontier wars are shaped by British Great Game. So the two major factors that underplayed all the policies are, first of all, industrial capitalism, second is Great Game, and it decided everything. Then you come to administrative processes. Now, as the British people have to come to India for trading, and they have to go from place to place, they need security, they need safety, they need some transportation, they need Indians to work with them in certain fashion, follow some contract. So now there is a need to change India. आप कहेंगे कि मुगल एडमिन क्या है, बेकार चीज, हम लाएंगे अंग्रेजों से, we will Europeanize Indian administration, will change the laws. So we have Indian Penal Code written in 1830s but promulgated in 1860s. We have Contract Act. So gradually entire administration and legal structure of India started to undergo change. You have Agis and Pindar is being suppressed completely. In case of economy, again you see, they don't want to increase the direct connection. We don't want middlemen. We want to have direct rule. So in zamindari system, zamindars were middlemen, that became a problem for them. So in Rayatwadi and Mahalwadi, we'll see them, there is no middleman, direct connection with the people. So it represents industrial phase. Zamindari represented mercantile phase. Difference है दोनों में. जमाना का दस्तूर बदल गया. You come to next thing, they want commercialization agriculture. They want to export not textile anymore, but cotton. So they are interested in the export of primary commodities, raw material, opium, indigo, cotton. ये सब के लिए investment, expansion, licensing, all those things. Take opium, the best example is this phase of 1830s, 40s. You have opium wars in China. You know opium wars? जानते हो? Let me tell you for 2 minutes. Why? There is a queen called Catherine of Braganza. She married into English family a few decades ago, and usko she changed the culture of British royalty by introducing chai, tea. चाय पियेंगे, एकदम elite culture. चाय मतलब इतनी बड़ी चीज, exotic चीज. तो अंग्रेजों की फैमिली ऐसे राजा महाराजों की बैठती थी और चाय पीती थी, तो बड़ा इवेंट होता था. Gradually, the tea that was introduced for elites over next centuries, especially during the Industrial Revolution, became a very important consumer good for entire industrial labor class in. क्योंकि बहुत सस्ते में अच्छे वो आप शुगर पियो, दूध पियो और कैफीन ले लो, टैनिन ले लो, काम करो. तो लेबर क्लास के सस्ते में चलाने का ड्रिंक इंपॉर्टेंट बन गया. तो एंटायर ब्रिटिश कल्चर केम टी ड्रिंकिंग कल्चर. Huge amount of tea requirement. टी बनता कहाँ पे था? 1850s, 60s, it was only in China. अब वो अंग्रेज जो इंडिया को सिल्वर नहीं देना चाहता फॉर आवर टेक्सटाइल, क्या वो चाइना को सिल्वर देगा फॉर इट्स टी? नहीं देगा. दे वांट टू एस्टेब्लिश बैलेंस ऑफ ट्रेड. कैसे करे? टी की रिक्वायरमेंट बहुत ज़्यादा है, बहुत ज़्यादा टी चाहिए. तो दे सेड ओके, लेट अस ट्राई टू क्रिएट सम काइंड ऑफ, वी हैव इंडिया, लेट अस यूज इंडिया फॉर दैट. व्हाट डिड चाइनीज वांट? Opium. Let us convert India into opium growing country. Afghanistan आज है, हेलमंड वैली वगैरह. So in Bengal, Hastings in 1770s started to give opium license. By 1820s, you will see that in the western MP, Malwa, Nimach वगैरह, you have huge amount of opium. This opium was regulated. It used to go via Calcutta and Bombay to China. और चाइनीज राजा ने उसको मना कर दिया. This is illegal, don't allow opium into our country. इससे हमारी जनता खा रही है. तो ड्रग एडिक्शन बना रहे हो आप. तो व्हाट डिड ब्रिटिश डू? ब्रिटिश ने कहा अच्छा हम नहीं भेजेंगे, जस्ट यूज इंडियन मिडलमैन. और मिडलमैन मारवाड़ीज एंड पारसीज. So these Parsis people especially, they used to be the middlemen to take opium from Bombay to Hong Kong and Canton, and then smuggling थे सारा. It was illegal anyway, and huge amount of free opium was given to Chinese. पूरी की पूरी जनरेशन को ड्रग का लत लगा ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी. व्हाई? बिकॉज इन एक्सचेंज ऑफ ओपियम दे कैन गेट चाय. वो चाय क्यों चाहिए? तो इंग्लैंड में बेचनी है ताकि मजदूर चाय पिए, ताकि उसको ज़्यादा सैलरी ना देनी पड़े, वेजेस ना देने पड़े, सस्ते में हमारा इंडस्ट्री चले, प्रॉफिट मार्जिन बढ़े. दैट इज द होल ट्रायंगल, ओपियम टी ट्रायंगल. मतलब if I can use very responsibly one single word, in the first half of 19th century, East India Company is दुनिया का सबसे बड़ा ड्रग माफिया. It's a narco mafia company, official policy. I am not joking. So anyway, and you know this great city of Bombay, built by many Parsis and Iranis with their patronage, very liberal and good patronage. But this Tatas etc. तो ऊपर कहाँ से आए ओरिजिनली? बिकॉज उनके फोर फादर्स वेर ऑल ओपियम स्मगलर्स. in British era. And with that huge amount of wealth that they created through opium smuggling, they put it for good use and created the great city of Bombay. Same thing goes for cotton. So there are lots of things here, but you can see that how Indian kisan तो पता ही नहीं है दुनिया में कहाँ डिमांड है, वहाँ ओपियम वॉर चल रहा है, पॉलिसी चेंज होगी क्या पता नहीं, वो अपना ओपियम लगाया जा रहा है, खत्म से दाम गिर जाएंगे, इसका घर बर्बाद. Yes, no. Our peasants, our farmers, they are forced into global trade without having any knowledge, any agency and any choice. So every single commodity has got a huge story, an interesting story. जैसे कॉटन बूम आया था 1860s में, you know what was the result of cotton boom? Bombay Stock Exchange. So everything is connected. Then you have second interesting aspect here is that if they want to export raw material, you have a commercialization of agriculture. And if they want Indians to consume British industrial goods, कैसे करेंगे? Cut out the competition. How to cut out the competition? Destroy Indian industry. इस चीज के लिए दुनिया भर में हम सदियों से जाने जाते थे, from 1820s to 1890s, as a matter of deliberate policy across India, our well-renowned thousands of years old handicrafts industry was destroyed and decimated. आपको क्या लगता है गांधी जी चरखे की बात क्यों करते हैं? गांधी जी का चरखा की बात जो है is primarily because British destroyed Indian villages by destroying craft, primarily textile based. So Gandhi ji ka charkha as a symbol is actually a very good symbol of the way British looted India. Intensified drain of wealth. Now you come to socio-cultural change. Now they want to change everything. They want to change laws, change administration. They would start saying, भाई ये क्या आपका कल्चर है? बड़ा खराब कल्चर है इंडिया का. अब तक 20 साल पहले तक they would to praise Indian culture. What a great culture, what a great language. अब बोल रहे सब बेकार, सब बदल दो, नहीं चाहिए ये. आपके यहाँ सती है, आपके यहाँ कास्ट सिस्टम है, आपके यहाँ कम्युनलिज्म है. All these things are useless. You are backward people. We are the carriers of civilization. हम आपको बताएंगे क्या करना. So Indomania, love for India from Oriental era, suddenly shifted into Indophobia. India का सारा खराब, सब बदलना है. Now they come with civilizing mission. Let us teach Indians English language. Macaulay at that time, midst of industrial age, brings English for us. Sati abolition happens exactly at that stage. It's a good thing, no doubt. But the intention, अंग्रेजों के खाने के दांत अलग है, दिखाने के दांत अलग है. चलो सती एबोल्यूशन में रिफॉर्म का नाम दिखाने के दांत है, खाने के दांत क्या है? सप्रेस इंडियंस, मेक देम. तो हम जो सिंपली बोलते हैं कि इन दिस एरा क्लाइव subjugated India politically. In this era, painting subjugated India culturally. In 1947, India has become free of Clive. Even today, we have not become free of painting. Cultural, cognitive, imperial are still. So that's why we have the talk of decolonization everywhere today, in good or bad, all the senses. So you have all these things. Then you come to next era, third phase. After 1858, two more things happen. First thing is that, first thing happens at global level, and one thing is India. Globally क्या होता है? Globally, in 1850s, entire Europe starts copying Britain in industrialization. It is now no more Britain who is industrializing. We have Belgium, we have France with Napoleon III, Germany. They सब industrialize हो रहे हैं. Suddenly they start closing their offices. Hey, we don't want British goods to come here. We want to protect our market, support our own industry. We have protectionism. We don't want British investment. We don't want British commodities. वो कानून ऐसे बनाते हैं. We have excess production capacity in England to supply entire Europe, but now Europe doesn't want our commodity. Secondly, we had excess capital accumulation. दुनिया भर में इन्वेस्ट कर रहे थे, अब they are closing off. In America, we have Hamiltonian era. Same thing, protectionism. So entire developed world today actually at that time started to imitate with some modification the British template, and British suddenly realized they have much more money, their home market is saturated, nowhere else to invest, what to do with the money? तो 30-40 एक तो प्लासी से लूट के सारा लेके आए, इंडस्ट्री बनाई, अब बहुत पैसा हो गया, पैसे का करे क्या, रखेंगे तो भाई नुकसान है, इंटरेस्ट मिलना चाहिए. तो हाउ टू अर्न द बेटर इंटरेस्ट? From 1850s onwards, India was opened up for financial investment. ऐसे Government of India will give a guarantee. Invest in Indian railways. रेलवे प्रॉफिट में हो, नुकसान में हो, कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा. Will give you 5% guaranteed return. Rest of the bonds, the private market in London Stock Exchange in 1850s gave 3% return. यहाँ पे ब्रिटिश गवर्नमेंट बोल रहा है इंडिया में, ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी वाला, और बाद में ब्रिटिश गवर्नमेंट गारंटी 5% रिटर्न. कहाँ से आएगा? इंडियन टैक्सेस. दिस इज अ न्यू मॉडल यूजिंग इंडियन वेल्थ that now came back to India's investment to extract even more money. So India was opened up for investment, so financial investment. It's a third phase. ये नया मॉडल आया इंडिया को लूटने का. Old models continued. ये खत्म नहीं होता है. This model also continued to some extent. Second one also continued. Third one got added and became more prominent. The second thing that happened in 1857, the revolt of 57, अंग्रेजों को धक्का लग गया. अब तक बोल रहे थे we are coming here for reforming Indians, you grateful Indians. Now अब हम पे डांटोगे, हमें बाहर निकालोगे, आपकी औकात ही नहीं है सुधरने की. Will not bring any social reform now. Suddenly policy change. Indians are beyond reform. They are incapable. What they need is data. We don't want to interfere in Indian society anymore. No more such interference. We need only data. We need to find the allies amongst Indians. हमारे दोस्त बने. We initially thought in industrial era the reform minded people जिनको हम अंग्रेजी सिखा रहे हैं, मिडिल क्लास, राजा राममोहन रॉय, ये हमारे दोस्त है. हाँ, in 57 they did not help us. दोस्त कौन निकले? Princely states. They did not rise against us. वही princely states जिनको हम खत्म करने निकले थे, दोस्त निकल गए. वही जमींदार जिनको हम निकाल रहे थे रेतवाड़ी में से, वो दोस्त निकल गए. Suddenly British calculation changed altogether. रातों रात दोस्त का दुश्मन, दुश्मन का दोस्त. So that is the new policy. Firstly, they wanted to open India for investment and they wanted to arrange India in such a manner that no more 57 happens. That informed all the policies, political, social, economic, culture. So कैसे? You come, company is abolished anyway. From company to crown transition happens. No more annexationism. The princely states are our friends. Storm, backwater. दोस्त है हमारे. And then we want to increase our control, not directly, but in. So after 1857, there is hardly one or two random case यहाँ पे annexation हुआ हो. 40% of India was not directly conquered. So from 1857 onwards, 40% India geographically remained princely states, and 60% India became British India. 40% is a huge thing. जब आप पूरा modern India पढ़ते हो, जो reading history of only 60% India, 40% को ऐसे ही भूल गए, पढ़ती नहीं उसकी history. Then you come to administration. Strengthen the grip to ensure that there is no such revolt anymore, but not to antagonize people. So we have some ICS, IPS, Lytton, Ripon, all these things start happening here. We'll discuss them in detail. Financially also, you want to invest. अब चाय को parallel create करना है, go to Assam. जोरहाट में जो चाय का पूरा चाय बागान कहाँ से आता? From this 1850s onwards. You have financial investment. जहाँ जहाँ होए वहाँ डालते. Railway, even if you don't need railway in certain parts, बना दो railway. अफगानिस्तान में रेलवे बना दिया आपने. जहाँ पे there is no economic sense, रेलवे बना दो. Why? We are not worried about profit. 5% तो guaranteed है गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया से. We just want to increase the railway. बस इंडियंस चिल्ला चिल्ला के बोल रहे 1870s का बहुत बड़ा डिबेट है. We want investment. क्या में we don't have money. Want money, but put the money where it will benefit you and us both. कहाँ से? ऐसे इरिगेशन में. 1870s में इंडिया में भयानक अकाल आया था. भयानक अकाल. 2-3 करोड़ लोग मारे गए. एंड इंडियन सर बोले आप करो इन्वेस्ट, मुनाफा ले लो, बट इन्वेस्ट वहाँ करो जहाँ आपको मुनाफा मिले, हमें भी कुछ मिले खाने को आना. नो, विल पुट मनी इन रेलवे नॉट इरिगेशन. इरिगेशन थोड़ा थोड़ा, रेलवे मेजर. व्हाई? बिकॉज विद द हेल्प ऑफ रेलवे वी कैन कंट्रोल इंडिया. our armies can move very fast. With the help of railway, we can extract the commodities very easily. With the help of railway, we can flood India with our goods. So railway is more important to us. हम वही पैसा डालेंगे. जहाँ जरूरत नहीं वहाँ भी railway बना देंगे. So because they want. So then famines became recurrent. UPSC asked question on famine last year only. And in case of society, no more interference in the socio-religious domain unless and until public pressure हो. So from 1856 में widow marriage का कानून आता है till 1892 when the age of consent act comes. बीच में 30-40 साल एक भी कानून नहीं. एक है Tammo Marriage Act in 1870s, but that is for one particular community. It is not for India entire. So no more reform. Indians are beyond the reform. कोई reform नहीं हो पाए तो पिछड़े रहेंगे. And then atom despotism. Then after one impact of 57 was हम गोरे आप काले. You see, एक term आती है Anglo-Indian. We know that. We had reservation also in parliament, etc. Who are these Anglo-Indians? These Anglo-Indians were the product of intermarriages, mixed marriages of British and Indians. But you know that till 1830s and 1840s, these marriages used to happen. After 57, they became extremely rare. क्यों? क्योंकि अब आप पूरे इंडियंस बन गए काले, को टच नहीं करेंगे, टच भी करेंगे तो शादी नहीं करेंगे. Because it was as an official matter discouraged. Indians and racist feature इतने आ गए उसमें to the level extent जहाँ कर्जन ने एक बार कलकत्ता में भाषण दिया था 1904 में बोला था वो highest virtue of truth is known only to European civilization. Indians को सत्य क्या है पता ही नहीं है. Their religion is so backward. तो इंसल्ट की हद होती है. किसी इल्बर्ट बिल कंट्रोवर्सी हम पढ़ते हैं. What is racism to the core? Race as an idea is the product of European modernity that was thrusted on India. Anyway, and divide and rule starts a lot in this era. So this is the time where you see all of these are being imposed on us. अब सवाल आता है, how did Indians respond? We have seen history from British side. How did Indians respond? I will take only 2 minutes and then we'll stop. Don't worry. पहला दिन है, ज़्यादा खींच लिया, आदत डाल दो यार. So Indians started responding in multiple ways. जैसे कि we have first of all proto-nationalist resistance, the peasant and tribal revolt. They have no idea of what is constitution, what is parliament, what is liberalism, what is modernity. उनको परेशानी हो रही है, तलवार लेके आ रहे. They could be suppressed very easily. You know that 1856 में काल रिबेलियन हुई थी. 20,000 संथाल्स were killed in 20,000. बिपिन चंद्र लिखते हैं, और बिपिन चंद्रा, the hills of राजमहल were drenched blood of संथाल. अगर 1857 नहीं होता तो the most gruesome and killing episode of entire 19th century, that was the level of the violence and of oppression. 57 तो है ही, दिल्ली में 1 लाख बंदा मार दिया. But these are resistance movements. They are not modern politics, because there is no idea of India being one nation coming together politically and responding to British. इसकी शुरुआत कौन करता है? मिडिल क्लास, the help of. So yes, idea why these reform movements are very fundamental, because you have to compare 18th century with 20th century. In the 18th century, India lost independence. In 20th century, we have Gandhian movements. जो फर्क है, that is because of social reform. Created the idea of modernity. जो कोई यूरोपियन थॉट्स है, यूटिलिटेरियन हो, लिबरल हो, इक्वालिटी, रूल ऑफ लॉ, सेकुलरिज्म, whatever, all these thoughts were converted to Indian mind, Indian style, Indian form, digested this movement to some extent or another. इंडिया के मॉडर्निटी का जो बेसिस है रिफॉर्म मूवमेंट इज नॉट ब्रिटिश. तो समझो, देयर आर मेनी पीपल आई सी इन एवरी बैच दो सीख, हाँ अंग्रेज आए अच्छा तो हुआ, हम एक देश बन गए. वी गॉट इंग्लिश, वी गॉट रेलवे, वी गॉट टी, वी गॉट क्रिकेट, वी गॉट ICS. These are all byproducts. That the actual intent, actual way it was used. India did not modernize because British wanted to. We are modernized despite British not wanting. आपको एक सिंपल मसला देता हूँ, लुक एट इंग्लिश एजुकेशन. अंग्रेज बड़ा ढोल बजाते रहे, यू विल गेट इंग्लिश एजुकेशन. व्हाट डिड दे टीच इन लिटरेचर, पोएट्री एंड हिस्ट्री, not science, not technology, because they wanted to cultivate our mind. British test, not want to give us actual capacity. तो पहले कोर्स, आई एम नॉट अगेंस्ट हिस्ट्री में खुद पढ़ाता हूँ, अलग बात है, बट द पॉइंट इज दैट इट द अटेम्प्ट इंग्लिश एज a educational system was a mask of, was for cultural conquest, was not for empowering India, was to get cheaper clerks and British goods ka consumers. Indians resisted that, so that's why you should be able to differentiate in modernity and westernization. This is the fundamental point. Modernity and westernization. British wanted to westernize us. We wanted to resist that. We wanted to become modern. At that time, in the 19th century, there was some overlap. वो अलग बात है. Anyway, so we have to start it. Then we gradually have different associations, politics, etc. And we have early phase of history, Swadeshi movement, moderates, extremists, Gandhian phase. वो हम जैसे आगे जाएंगे एक एक करके देखते जाएंगे. This is a typical history that we know. But if you look by number of questions or number of lectures, if you have 38 lectures, I will take about 18 to 20 lectures to come to Congress formation. 50% अपने lectures will be pre-1885, 50% post-1885, because that is the demand of syllabus, demand of UPSC. 18th 19th century are also very important, not only आखिरी के 40-50 साल. You should have that clarity. And यहाँ भी आगे we have lots of conceptual things. We'll see them as we go on. आज के दिन थोड़ा पहले दिन जाते, कल थोड़ा खींच लेंगे, ठीक है? Any doubt, any query? The basic difference between things of Mughals and British. We'll discuss these doubts. Any other query? कुछ है? Yes. Yes. Starting tomorrow. I just want to give trailer and orientation of how should we think. Now starting from the Portuguese arrival, tomorrow we'll go for arrival of Portuguese and then we'll begin from there, one by one. Yes. Sources की बात करना बाकी है, right? हाँ हाँ ना, कुछ मत पढ़ो, मैं sources की बात करता हूँ मैं. Let's come to the sources. Thing that is on our mind all the time. So this is a list of all the NCERTs. These are new NCERTs that I think you have studied in schools, and these are old NCERTs. If you come to modern India, now within next 1 or 2 years, I will have to add third column, newest NCERTs. से पहले निकल लो आप. There are around 25 NCERTs of history. I am not adding Tamil Nadu also. See, what I recommend for modern India is one single book. Apart from class notes, handouts will be in detail and well curated. So ideally कुछ भी ना पढ़ो तो भी चलेगा, but one, I believe in at least one single book. I prefer this simple old NCERT. One single book. Every day you read one chapter before coming to class. This single book of old NCERT, you can have that book. That will go in consonance with our classes. This book is very good for 18th and 19th century. For 20th थोड़ा जल्दबाजी वहाँ पे हो गई है तो हम कवर कर लेंगे. If you don't want to read this book, you can read any other book, no problem. But एक किताब रखो sir, one single book, not more than that. It is more than sufficient. My total handouts for this next 38 lectures will be around 450 to 500 pages, and there are 38 lectures, so you will be able to reduce the handouts into 40 pages का short notes. Every day 1 page notes or 1.5 page note. So 10-15 page का document that will come back to 1.5 page का notes, short notes for you. So that is also going to be our task. Handouts जिस दिन मिले घर जाके summary बना दो एक पन्ने की उसकी. It is easy to revise also. And this almost 500 pages will not include PYQs and MCQs. अलग से दूंगा मैं आपको. Will be covered very comprehensively and very thoroughly. And you will also become a person who can see things in history, create arguments on the spot, dimension on the spot. That is something what is required. Not somebody who can remember facts. Okay. Okay. Chalo, thank you. Any doubt online? Yes.
Remind me this.
पूरा मतलब दोनों को जोड़ के देखना, ये मेरे पास एक चीज़ आई है फ्रॉम लिटरेरी सोर्सेस, दूसरी आई है फ्रॉम आर्कोलॉजिकल सोर्सेस, दोनों मैच होते हैं, दोनों मैच हो रहे तो वो कोरोबोरेट हो रहे हैं, मैच अगर नहीं हो रहे तो कोरोबोरेट नहीं हो रहे। कारताज, कारताज मतलब परमिट, परमिट उसको हम कल देखेंगे डिटेल में, कल का टॉपिक है हमारा ये। क्या समझ में आया? पक्का?
हाँ, तभी तो ये दोनों उसमें।
ठीक, थैंक यू। रीजन फॉर सेकंड फेज के लिए बेसिक रीजन इंडस्ट्रियल रिवॉल्यूशन। हम पढ़ेंगे ना, मैं आगे ट्रेलर आपको मैं पूरी कहानी विस्तार से बताऊँ, बट मेजर चेंजेस इंडस्ट्रियल रिवॉल्यूशन दैट चेंज द इकोनॉमिक स्ट्रक्चर इज वन। So the third phase, it is entire world getting in European world that created financial surplus. तो करेंगे पेमेंट डाइवर्ट, एक ग्लोबल पर्सपेक्टिव से। थैंक यू। हाँ, आई एम वेटिंग फॉर सम कमेंट्स, इफ देयर आर कमेंट्स। 2 मिनट रुको। नहीं, क्योंकि मैंने आपको पढ़ाया नहीं, आपको मैंने कुछ पढ़ाया नहीं आपको। एवरीथिंग दैट आई टॉट टुडे वी कवर्ड वेरी स्लोली, वेरी ग्रेजुअली इन नेक्स्ट 30-40 लेक्चर। फास्ट तो ट्रेलर हमेशा फास्ट होता है ना। आप इसमें आपको लगे ना कुछ रुक जाए, अगर तो बोल दूँ। एंड हियर व्हाट विल डू, आई विल रिकमेंड थिंग्स का फायदा हो सम बेसिक। कल कवर करेंगे उसको, सही है। तो लाइसेंस, परमिट, पासपोर्ट, अगर आपको अपनी शिप लेके जाना हो कहीं से, समुंदर के राजा तो वो है, समुंदर के इस्तेमाल आप नहीं कर सकते, तो उनका है। आपको समुंदर में जाना है तो उनसे पैसे दे, ठीक है। और ओशनिक ट्रैवल, मैरीटाइम ट्रैवल, ऑनलाइन कोई क्वेरी है नहीं। इन ordination business are the same, Vinay, they are not the same, they are different, that is the point. Organization is west, modern is modern. Why in 18th-19th century it is the western people who created modernity, लगा कि दोनों सेम ही है, but now we have different modernities parts of the world. It is not one single template, ठीक है। शायद ऑनलाइन कमेंट्स डाउट्स नहीं एंड कर देते हैं, ताकि मैं यहाँ पे ऑफलाइन बात